Oh, yeah, a little bonded by darkness to start tonight off. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Dancing with Wolves. I am the Wolf. Special shout out to Christine Native Love, showing up early, giving lots of love. You're becoming a regular around here. We're going to have to find a title for you and get you on the podcast. Those who have been following me for a while know that I do that a lot. I like bringing people who interact and participate. If you're up for it, send me an email, wolf@oldwolfmusic.com. Good evening, Jess, everybody out there. Yeah, tonight, episode 86, Beyond the Shadows. We're going to be specifically dancing with Bonded by Darkness, Josh and Raven. Really great people. They're doing a show Friday night over in Lakewood, Ohio at the Foundry with Frail and Grave. Really great music. And again, as I've been known to do, I switch up the openings. And I said, you know what, tonight, I'm going to start off with Bonded by Darkness. Yeah, they're a really good band. You can check them out online, Facebook, all those groovy places. Definitely a band to keep an eye on, as is Frail, which is why I promote them so much. It was funny. New music, I've been playing them a lot. So you'll find them and their collective songs scattered through a good part of my shows and stuff like that. I'm just one of those guys, old school. When I like a band, I like to play it. So a lot of these shows, I try and bring it out to other people, but a lot of it is for me and my own fucking sanity. So yes, there's the first fuck of the night. Oh God, that feels good. This is the beautiful thing about the podcast. I'm not restricted by language, but just to clarify for everybody at home, the thoughts, expression, views, opinions, etc., are mine unless you choose to subscribe to them. Subscribing to them is free. There is no special wolf book of insight. I just throw it out there. But all joking aside, sometimes we get into a little bit darker things. Sometimes we get into things that might trigger. So I always like to throw it out there. Don't get me wrong. I believe that conversations need to be had, and I'm going to continue to have them as best as I can. But we have fun with them, too. They're not always, Special shout out to Shia, Ativia, Diane, and the rest of the girls out there tonight. They will not be joining us because we did have a little bit of an overlap between what we do at the radio station and obviously what I do at the podcast. Those of you that are familiar with Celtic singer and songwriter Lorena McKennitt. She's performing up here in Rochester, New York tonight at the Kodak Theater. She was gracious enough to do an interview for us last night and is helping out, doing a little bit of underwriting for the station. She's a very big believer in the community nonprofit dynamic. She's an incredible singer, incredible musician, a little bit different style, but it is a good style. And she made a great point in her interview that there's room for all different types of music. We don't have to limit ourselves to the fashion trend stuff, as she liked to call it, that the record companies and the powers that be want to shove down our throats. So I'm 100% with that. She's a very, very intelligent woman, been around the world, and she's doing a great show tonight. So we're trying to support the people, again, that you don't always get to hear about. Like Bonded by Darkness, I'm working on getting Gwen and Sean on here from Frail sometime in November. They got a busy schedule, but we were talking the other day, and I think we're going to be able to make that happen. We got the Rockin' Oddities Con coming up October 28th, 29th. With any luck, and I haven't heard back from David Spinks yet. I had him on last night. We'll have him back on later tonight if we can make it happen. If not, he again is going to be out October 28th, 29th. So I kind of got a little bit of a backup plan. I got extra Bonded by Darkness. I got extra Frail kind of loaded up for the ride. A lot of things going on beyond the shadows, especially within the dynamics of music and magic. Every day it seems we learn something new. Sometimes it's something fucking horrible, but sometimes it's important. We're seeing more, as they say. And with that comes possibilities. I know even within our own little community here, there is a strong, magical, pagan / Celtic community base, whatever labels you want to put on it. I want to shout out Sue over at Mythic Treasures. Shia, Dan, and Nativia were down there for the Mythic Fair that they've started back up. And again, here in Rochester, New York, this is something that's been going on for years. Used to originally be over at the Village Square. But this is how we build the circle. This is how we support. This is how we take care of each other. Because I believe music is magic. Coincidentally, I have a show Monday nights on WRFZ called The Music and Magic Show. Just I can't do the fuckity fuck thing. Because, redundant. Welcome to the FCC. But out here, we can talk about whatever the hell we want. And tonight, we're going to be playing music between Frail and Bonded by Darkness, so we don't have any issues with the big record companies being like, oh, you can't play our stuff because we're not getting paid for it. Well, you don't pay the fucking artist, do you, either? Which is so why a lot of bands are going the independent route, and why people like me and Brian Judah, Ed Contini, and a lot of others from over WRZ are making it a point to start producing shows, which is where I'm going to jump to real quick before I get Josh and Raven on here. My brother Brian Judah has a band called Days End. And for those of you in the Rochester, New York area, November 11th, okay, Saturday night, Pineapple Jacks, Brian Judah's Days End, and Dragonfly are going to be performing. It's going to be a really, really cool show. Pineapple Jacks is a neat little place. So glad to see them still doing their thing. We're working on some stuff with the Photo City Music Hall here in Rochester as well, too. Going to be looking at doing some shows for 2024. A lot of really cool stuff coming down the pike. And again, as always, I dance in a lot of circles. A lot of circles. So, again, some of this, depending upon what end of the spectrum you're on, you know what I mean, is different. I have been really impressed by the elements that both of these bands have brought. Granted, I know Bonded by Darkness a little bit more. I've spent a lot of time talking with Josh. Raven interacts a lot with Shia and the Witches and stuff like that. And there are a lot of common themes. We'll talk a little bit more about that when I have them on. But I'm going to jump to one of Frail's tracks. It's a really cool one. And we're going to let that run while I get them on here. And then we're going to come back live and we're going to jump into the shadows. So a little bit of Frail's Bright Eyes. And then we'll be back. So yeah, that was a little bit of Frail, Bright Eyes. Again, I'm going to throw this up here because it does apply. Because they're also going to be playing Friday, October 20th, over at the Foundry, Lakewood, Ohio. One of the bands on that bill, besides Grave, obviously, they're Bonded by Darkness. I got Josh and Raven on the phone. We're dancing a little bit of the funky kind of connection type of stuff. So, you know, we're going to dance it as best we can. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to the show. Here, you just take it. You guys fucking talk. I'm going to shut up, and that way you don't even have to worry about hearing me.
No, it's all good.
So we were talking before we came live. You both are just fucking getting over COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not worried about your voice as much, Josh, as Raven's, because,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, thank God it's his voice that's jacked up, not mine.
Yeah. But that might sound good, like in The Devil in You. You might get that nice growly shit going.
Yeah, I can definitely pull that off if we play that song. We might actually, but
well, I noticed you guys, you know, you've gotten through like this drum change thing. Bring me back up to speed on fucking everything that's been going on, brother. Because I know you've been working mad hours, so we don't get to talk always the way we want. But you and I have always had this really kind of open dynamic where, you know, whatever the fuck it is, that's what it is. So why don't you tell me what the fuck is going on down there, man?
Oh man. Well, I'm gonna make this. Yeah. Well,
you trying to think of a nice way to do this? Is that what's happening right now?
What's that?
You trying to think of a nice way to do this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to sound professional as a professional musician. I don't want to put anybody down or say anything bad about anybody. But our first drummer basically was a problem for a long time, and he quit before we were actually going to get rid of him. And then the second guy that we had going on was actually, he came out of the gate pretty well. He was doing really well and everything. And then it just, I guess it just wasn't.
It wasn't in the cards, brother. Chemistry is everything.
Wasn't a priority enough. There you go.
An incident happened.
I'm just going to say it because I really don't give a fuck, because he knows he fucked up. And I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say any bad words or anything.
No, dude, we're on the fucking podcast. Remember, we can let it all fucking hang out.
It's nothing against the guy, because I love the dude with all my heart, but he came up to a couple practices pretty smoked, like drunk.
No.
And then when we were coming up to, when we did our video shoot, this dude showed up fucking hammered, man. And he couldn't do the fucking video very well. It was kind of embarrassing and stuff. Nothing against the guy. I love Mike with all my heart. He's a really good dude. I consider him as a friend still, but he knows he fucked up. We had some conversations about it when we let him go. But yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, listen, this is business. This is not personal. You guys have put a lot into this.
And that's how he should have thought of it. As a business, he should have thought of it as a fucking job. Because we're all like, Raven and I are putting money up to pay for these videos and shit, and he didn't even have to pay for it. He didn't have to do nothing. All he had to do was just show up and put his game face on. And
he had one job and he fucked it up.
Yeah, and yeah, not to put anybody down, because I love the guy, and no hard feelings towards the first drummer, even though I was really pissed at him about that too. But it just is what it is, and.
Listen, I mean, as your friend, I don't think it makes it unprofessional to speak the truth. It's not like you're going out there and,
I'm not bad-mouthing anybody. I'm just telling you how it really fucking went down, man.
Because that's the real world we live in. People do shitty things all the fucking time.
So the guy who actually did our video, his name is Nathaniel Hubler, and he's 28. Yeah, and he's a phenomenal motherfucker.
Yeah.
So
I really like the new track. I'm gonna play it at some point. I have that loaded up. I think it's a really, really good, shot of you guys. I like how it's done in black and white. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. but the guy who did our video is the guy who's playing drums for us now. So, he had like,
he nailed his audition. I mean,
yeah, he had like a week, 2 weeks to learn all of our songs. He come in and he fucking played our songs with, I mean, like he was playing them as long as we have. And it was great. So we're back on the Hot Wheels track again.
Nice.
Blistering some asses. This Friday should be one hell of a fucking show.
Yeah, dude, listen, I got to tell you, you know, especially with, you know, the dynamic of how powerful, you know, Frail has really, you know, and they've been doing it for a while, you know what I mean? But they're starting to come around the corner. You know, that track that they did with the Soundgarden tribute album, I think popped them more up on the radar, if you dig what I'm saying. And by default, some of the bands like you and other ones that are within those circles and stuff like that, I think this is the beginning, you know, of another shift in the music trend. And we've both seen them over the years. It happens, you know what I mean? You go this way a little bit, then it comes back over here, and some people call it goth, and they call it this, and, you know, a lot of different fucking labels, but it tends to go in cycles.
For sure.
Now,
I think
go ahead.
Frail is fucking... The last time Raven and I seen Frail was, what month was that? June. And fuck, Francis. They had to have been one of the best live bands I've seen in probably 15 years, dude.
Yeah, we talked about it the first time you were on the show, and you know, you kind of introduced me, you know, to them, and I was blown away, you know, by some of their older stuff. And the Soundgarden cover they released, I think it was July. It was like June or July of this year that they did that. And again, it's a really powerful, nicely done piece. But, you know, again, and I've seen some of the stuff that they've done, you know, especially within Gwen and Sean, they both have a very similar context about not only the dynamics of magic, but also the dynamics of how it relates to music and, you know, the organic elements, if you dig what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm just happy to be playing with them, man. Just been a supporter since I seen them the first time with Mono Lord at the Grog Shop 2 years ago. I wasn't, and like, I know I've said this other times on your podcasts.
Fucking say it again. Nobody cares.
At first I wasn't a fan because I only heard one song, and it was that Bela Lugosi's Dead, and, you know, nothing against it. I'm not really a big fan, but after I seen them live, man, I was like, fuck, man, this is a good band. Then I started listening to them. Hell, at one point I was listening to them every fucking day, Francis, for like,
you got me listening.
Yeah, all summer long, dude. All summer, all day, every fucking day. I was blasting them guys like they were fucking, you know, like they were fucking Black Sabbath, dude.
Listen, they're a powerful band, and, you know, I have definitely been expanding and listening to more stuff. Ironically for you, brother, one of the tracks I have tonight is Bela Lugosi's Dead, because
that's cool, dude.
One of the people that's doing the rock. Well, it goes back to some of the, you know, like the Concrete Blonde, you know, one of the performers at the Rock and Oddities Con, Heather Salome, the Vampire Witch, is really into that. So I've been trying to incorporate, and I turned her on to it, and I've been trying to turn everybody on to you guys and Frail. That's why I play it so much. One of the people in the chat, you guys probably won't be able to see it, Teresa Bidwell's from the band Hollowell. They played with us October 7th over at the House of Guitars. She's a really cool guitar player and singer and stuff like that. And she says she feels that Hollowell used to be a 5-piece. Now they're down to a 3-piece power trio. The dynamic sometimes of band interaction and, you know, who works well with you, because it is reflective of your music. I mean, it is a business. You've invested money, but I know you, bro. You live and breathe this shit. You know what I mean? You would play even if it meant you were just getting a couple of stale fucking crackers. You know what I mean? If you have an opportunity to play, you're going to play. So it isn't just about the money for you. You're not going to sacrifice aspects of sound or style or any of that shit just for the magical rapper piece. You know what I mean?
No, dude, I just like the fucking jam, dude. You know, and being able to see like people enjoy it is, you know, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to be fucking, you know, well off and do whatever I want and not have to work and be a full-time musician. But I mean, it's, you know, I'm 44 years old. If I ever get big, I hope it's soon, because I don't want to be a fucking...
Hey, brother, listen, I'm 56. I'm still dancing it, but I'm telling you, you hang in there. You'll find ways to segue it. It's like anything. It's a moment in time. You guys are dancing the things that you're dancing. It's unique to you. You know, I know, you know, from my conversations with Raven and obviously her interactions with Shy and stuff like that, you know, she also brings a powerful dynamic to you guys, not only just in the singing and the songwriting, but the personal dynamic that you guys share. You know, you have your son playing in the band. So this isn't just like a bunch of fucking hired guns, you know, that get together, you know, every couple of months to throw some shit together. This is part of your life.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, in my honest opinion, if Raven wasn't in the band, that we would just be another fucking band, man. And that's just my 100% true opinion, dude. Because if you could just slap some guy fucking screaming over my shit, I would just be another fucking goddamn heavy metal band that everybody's heard.
Listen, that's what I love about you, man. You don't pull punches with that shit. And you're right. For a lot of us guitar players, there's so many of us out there, and that's not to begrudge anybody, whatever they're doing, but many times it's the front person. It's the voice. That
it really is.
It's going to define whether people are into your music or not. Pure and simple. You know, you could, you know, like Yngwie Malmsteen, you know, proved it. He got hot for a few, and then, you know, he's doing back bar fucking gigs and shit still. So, you know, it doesn't translate. You know, even a guy like an Eric Clapton, you know what I'm saying? You have that voice. You know, you talk Black Sabbath. What's the first thing people think? Ozzy. They don't think Tony Iommi. You know, and we both love Tony Iommi as a guitar player, but that's the sad fucking truth of it.
Oh yeah, definite. You know, I mean, the singer is the cheerleader of the band. Everybody has to, you know, they're the voice and the face of the band. So, you know, I mean,
you're trying to find the words, and there really aren't the words, because it's also, let's be honest, for you too, you guys have a deeper dynamic. You know what I mean? She doesn't just reflect the voice; she also reflects, to many degrees, the magic of it. And then obviously, you know, no pun intended, the bond that you two have, obviously it's bonded by darkness. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you can draw the correlation. Darkness, life imitates art.
Yeah, everything is, And I, you know, I like being the guy who's on the sideline with my son. And now we have Nathaniel, where we just like try to be this big wall of sound, and we just push it for her to make it. You know what I mean? To make it the shit. So I mean, dude, I'm fucking, you know, been doing this since 2002. So I'm not Dimebag Daryl, so I'm not going to be the guy on top of fucking bar stools or bar tables playing guitar solos and having everybody like, you know, thinking I'm fucking, you know, Dimebag Daryl.
But listen, we both know the trade-off though. To some degrees, you know what? It isn't everything that it's made out to be. You know what I mean? Because the other side of the coin, there's a lot of sacrifice that has to go into to go out and do those kind of tours. You know, when you and I were talking early in the summer, you know, when I did the interview with Marshall Tucker and stuff, Doug Gray's fucking 75 years old and he's still traveling in a fucking bus across the country.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
You know what I mean? I'm not sure that I don't know if I'd be all right with that. You know what I'm saying?
I hope I'm not doing that.
Well, listen, he loves it. And that's not to take anything away from what he does, because he's an incredible guy and they're still an incredible band. But you see where I'm going. There's a price that has to be paid. There's a trade-off. You know, it's part of the dynamics of energy. It's the same framework with magic. You know, you have to put something into it. And sometimes what we have to put into it doesn't always translate back in the ways that we really need or want. You have, you know, at least to some degrees, you know, you have control of it. You know what I mean? Nobody's telling you have to record like this. You have to fucking do that. You guys are just doing what you want.
Yeah. completely.
Now, speaking of which, when last time we talked, you had mentioned about exploring some other genre styles, and specifically, I think you were looking at a more southern rock type of album concept. Where's that at with you?
It's still kind of on the simmer, on the back burner right now, because we've been dealing with this drummer issue with Bonded by Darkness. So we just literally, you're gonna shit when I tell you this. Last Sunday, no, the Sunday before was the first time we ever jammed with our drummer. So, and we're getting ready to play with Frail by the end of the week. And
it's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Listen, sometimes that's the best, man. You just throw it in there fucking raw. Just let it hang. Yeah. Listen, a good drummer, and you and I both know it. You've been doing this for a while.
Oh, he's amazing, man.
You give them the song, and all they really have to do is hold it the fucking together. It doesn't have to be note for note, because nobody in the fucking audience is gonna nail that in every single beat note. So if you've got the timing down, if you got the basic framework of the changes and stuff, and you guys are paying attention to it, you might you might decide to do a fucking 11-minute version of Dancing on Your Grave, because all of a sudden you and your kid get inspired and you decide to take it on some funky jam route.
Yeah, Nathaniel did his homework. We sent him the songs. And, he's real quiet. So like, I'll text him and be like, "Hey man, how you doing on the songs?" He's like, I think I'm getting them, and I'm like, okay. And then, he shows up for practice, man. And like, by the third song, I just looked at him. I'm like, we didn't even fucking have to practice, dude. All these fucking songs, like all the counts, all the changes, all the endings are perfect.
It's a nice feeling, isn't it?
No, man, I could have fucking hugged this little kid, dude. I'm not even joking. I just looked at him. I was like, "You saved our ass, dude." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll join the band." I'm like, "Fuck yeah."
Well, listen, this is the dynamic that screwed it up for you guys. You guys originally were on the bill to play the Rock and Oddities Con and the drummer situation. Right.
Yeah.
So this has been kind of like your bane for the entire fucking summer, is just getting that one piece. And that really, again, that says it all. All it takes is one piece in the machine to be fucked up, and you can't do anything else, and it's held you guys back. I know you guys wanted to do other shows and you couldn't because of that.
Yeah, like Female Feature Fest. It was in Erie, Pennsylvania, was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago?
Yeah, it was a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah, and dude, that we couldn't play that, and we went just to support, and check out how the whole
all other bands.
Yeah, the whole situation was and everything. And it was a fucking. I was happy to be there, but I was bummed. I was like, motherfucker, I wish I would have played this gig. Mm-hmm. It was packed. There was a lot of people there. It would have been an amazing place to play. And Basement Transmissions in Erie, Pennsylvania's got an amazing stage, great fucking sound system. Yeah, it would have been a great place to play, and I was bummed.
Nice. Listen, but now you have working knowledge. Let's be real blunt about it. There's some things you can't control, and the only way that you can really know is you got to let it play itself out. So, you put somebody in there, you're like, okay, maybe this will work. You give them a chance, and, now you know.
Yeah, and the same way with the Rock Oddities. Thank God we're on that next year. We're on Female Feature Fest next year, and we're on Doom Fest in Maryland again next year, because those are the 3 fucking gigs we got banged out of because drummer situations this year. So,
well, I mentioned it to you, and I threw it out to Gwen and stuff. I want to get you guys up here, to like the Photo City Music Hall, one of the better, venues that we have that, not only got a good sound system, but, got the access, got the ability to do the kind of show that you guys do. And I definitely think it's going to be something we'll be talking about come the winter. Yeah, you got Tyler from Hollowell, and he's doing the damn drummers thing. Yeah, listen, drummers, I'm lucky. I got Mark Tulin, a buddy of mine up here. And, he's fluid, man. He can it doesn't matter what style. I could come at him from some funky shit or just fucking gank it up. And he just, he kind of has that subtle little, oh, okay. And he just rolls with it, man. Sometimes, maybe this will be that for you. Because a guy, you just said that he came in and nailed it right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously he made you feel a particular way. That's usually a good sign in my experience as a guitar player.
Yeah. He, like I said, he smashed him, dude. Like, I couldn't even believe it.
Well, believe it, brother. That's exactly what you wanted, right? That's what Raven's Raven's been manifesting. I know her. She's been like twisted underneath her, trying to like, all right, we need a fucking drummer. What do I have to sacrifice to make this shit happen?
I know he's like freaking out, and I said, just wait. It's gonna come.
Well, because ever since our CD release show in June, I have literally been in a fucking depression mode over this fucking band, man, because we had everything going straight. Everything was going well. We had a lot of good gigs and stuff planned for this year. And then we got sideswiped by fucking drummer problems, man. And it's been nothing but like literally like, God, dude.
Well, listen, 2023 is what it is. And you're closing out 2023. You'll have danced through the COVID again. So, you know what I mean? Listen, you're winning. You're going to come out and you'll be like, hey, listen, the drummer didn't fucking stop me. COVID didn't fucking stop me. Fuck you, 2024. Here we come. Right?
Yeah, let's just hope 2024 kicks ass, man.
Yeah.
Which I think it will, because we have a lot of things lined up that's
good stuff.
Yeah. It's going to be a slower pace, and we're going to get a lot more things done. So we won't be so running ragged for shit.
Well, listen, some of this is, again, the organic element. You guys are doing the work yourself. You don't have a production company. You don't have a record label doing shit. You and I had those conversations earlier in the year. A lot of people talk a lot of fucking talk, but, trying to actually make it happen, and there's connections that are being made more and more. You're seeing things like what we're doing. People are doing podcasts. They're promoting more. They're doing shows. They're producing the shows now more so. They're just saying, fuck these idiot promoters out there. They're putting on their own shows.
Yeah. Well, we got signed to a management company, which should be getting announced sometime next year. Probably around February or March. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be recording 2 songs, putting out 2 other, we're putting a video out for Hellbound, within the next couple of weeks. And then we're going to be doing 2 more videos for other songs. So yeah, we're working out on the whole media, trying to get our videos and all that other good jazz shit out first, instead of like concentrating on playing 30 fucking shows in 1 year. And,
well, listen, it sounds like you got the piece that you were missing. Having the drummer now gives you the foundation that you can do everything else. No pun intended, because that's what you need. You need somebody back there that can hold the fucking beat.
Yeah, and he's doing our videos. So he'll be doing our videos. We got a drummer that's the shit. My best friend, one of my good friends, been recording us. Recording some albums that I've done since 2005. He's still in the picture. He'll be recording us too, still, and just still trying to move forward as fast as we can. Not as fast as we can, but as steady as we can, and not try to, turn a fart into shit.
Oh, listen, you're taking a little bit too much of the weight there, my brother. There's certain things you can't control. I mean, listen, humbly, I've watched you, and you and I've had a lot of conversations, we've had some of them publicly, you know what I mean? You're doing your part. The other shit we can't control. The best we can do, it's like a hand of poker. You got to deal with the fucking hand for what it is. Sometimes you can bluff them. Sometimes they're pieces of shit. You got to fold them, man. There's just no way around it. It's not reflective of you. Though I get the other element, because I was jonesing, first time I had played almost in a year was the little house band thing that we did a couple of weeks ago. And I know the feeling, you put the effort, you do all these things. I'm chasing shit with the radio station. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I haven't been able to work on my own music, and I've only performed once this year.
Shit, I still want to fucking work on that track that I got for you, man.
Listen, believe me,
There's just so much shit going on.
And there's only so much you can do. That's the honest truth. And it's not an easy truth sometimes, because it tends to either piss us off, or the other analogy, we kind of get down on ourselves. So as your brother and your friend, I'm going to say, hey, you know what, get out of that dark spot. That's not on you, man. That's just shit. That's just the universe. You couldn't control it. If anything, you took the high ground. You gave people an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? You said, hey, here's a chance.
Well, I sure as fuck ain't going to stop.
Well, no, because it means something to you. It's a reflection of you. I know from the conversations that you and I and Raven and Shy have had, there's a lot of deep elements, and some of this musical aspect for you is generational, not only between you and your son, but between you and your old man, and you're very passionate about that. There's a deep connection for you. They aren't just fucking words, that's a real thing that you carry, whether people, understand it or not. It's still what you dance, you know what I mean? And I know that's part of the framework that you have within how you approach those things. You carry it forward.
Yeah, music is, I don't know, the only thing I have for like some kind of a mental release, man, for real.
Listen, it is what it is. It's a sanity check, for sure, because you can put those things into the music instead of, going out and punching a tree or doing something else.
I'd be somewhere, like some funny farm with my fucking name on it somewhere. That's for sure.
Well, listen, sometimes the best music is born out of madness, right?
Yeah, yeah. But, yeah, everything dealing with the band is great, man. Hopefully we get to release some good stuff soon,
Now, you mentioned you weren't sure what you were going to play for this Friday at the show. Obviously, I'm thinking you're going to play Dancing on Your Grave, right?
Oh, of course. We're playing basically all the songs we have on the album besides I Am the Fire, because it's a fucking 35-minute fucking song, and it always takes up over half hour. No, it's not 35 minutes, but it's 10 minutes long, and we only have a half hour to play, so we can't bust that one out. That one is usually the headliner gig for us.
Well, that's the flip side of having tracks that run 7 minutes plus. Sometimes,
it's like 10 minutes now. It used to be when we first started writing that song, my son and I, and our other singer, that song was 17 minutes long, dude.
Yeah, no, listen, I get it. You and I joked about that, and some of that was also reflective for you of just not wanting to be stuck in that. You're like, if this is a good jam, I just want to let it roll, and if it rolls 15 minutes or if it rolls 18 minutes. But that's also, I think, reflective, and it's an older school dynamic that guys like you and I have that came up between the late 60s, early 70s, rock, metal, and then what metal kind of became. So we still have some of those jam dynamics. Yeah. They're just a little harder and, a little bit more off the reservation just because of the styles of music.
Yeah. It was just, it was nonsense, dude. We had to cut it down bad.
Yeah, but you enjoyed it, man. You can't even pretend that you didn't.
Oh man, when it was 17 minutes long, I was still smoking weed all the time.
You blame it on the fucking weed? Come on, man. Pink Floyd's Echoes is over 20 minutes long. Why is, it's the model, man. It's like anything else. It's reflective of what it was in the moment.
Yeah, we were just trying. Well, the song was originally called Nocturnal Ecstasy. It was about smoking weed with the other singer that we had before we picked up Raven. And dude, we would just get blazed and play that song over and over and over and over for Jesus Christ, dude. And it was just like it was like almost like trance. Like, and we play it really slow compared to what it is now too. It was like almost like trance music, dude. Like it was very
Yeah, no, listen, I get it. Listen, there's so many different energies you can tap into in a song. You can tap in rage, you can tap in confusion, fear, you can tap in lust, sexuality, all of it, depending upon which angle you're just going to come at it from. And, you know, some of it also too is obviously reflective of the moment in time, you know, so we're gonna call that the weed tapes. Okay, that's how I'm gonna refer to them now and be like, remember the story you were telling me about the weed tapes back in the day?
Dude, Jesus.
Well, I mean, listen, at some point this becomes now history. You know, now there's a context to it.
Now I don't smoke weed. It started making me feel really fucked up. I don't know why. Probably because I just really slowed down and it made me really paranoid. So I try not to write songs that are 17, 10 minutes.
Well, listen, it's like anything. Too much of anything is a bad thing. You know what I mean? You know, if you spend your life drinking Monsters, you know, your heart will explode. You smoke too much weed, yeah, you might find yourself, you know, writing Grateful Dead tunes that run, you know. I
don't think there's anything wrong with smoking weed. No,
it's context. It's the analogy. Like, again, situationally here, you know what I mean? If you're going to go in and perform heart surgery on a child, you probably shouldn't get blazed up before it. Digger and going, you know what I mean? This is not rocket science. If you're sitting in your fucking bedroom and you just want to listen to some Floyd and space out, yeah, fucking have at it.
Yeah.
You know, or even sitting around watching Sunday football, you know what I mean? It's how we apply certain things. Because you and I both know, you know, you could take anything and make it into something bad. You know, if you sit there and you eat, you know, 400 boxes of fucking Twinkies a day, your life is going to go sideways really fucking fast. You know, and nobody's got warnings out there say, hey, watch out for the Twinkies. There's no guy in the corner in a fucking trench coat like, hey, kid, you want to buy a Twinkie? You know what I mean? That's so, but we know that these things will and do fuck people up. You know what I mean? I mean, listen, you know, hang around a strip bar for a couple hours and just watch the devastation of guys who just go in there and just throw their money. And I'm for the girls, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's great. You know what I mean? There should be a process here to take money away from these characters and filter it back into something maybe that'll actually do good. But it is this reflection of illusion. It's a reflection of so many other fucking things. So at the end of the day, you know, I don't feel so bad about you writing a 17-minute track while you were high. You know what I'm saying? In comparison to everything else that's going on. I'd actually like to hear that. You got to send me that track. I've never heard it, so I need the frame reference. Like, I'll probably smoke a big fucking joint and I'll sit there and then listen to it so I can really be like, I need to be in the vibe for it.
Yeah, it's pretty, it's crazy.
Well, listen, sometimes crazy is good. Crazy is just a word, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I might have like some rough recordings of it on my phone, but it's well, I mean, it's I Am the Fire, the song that we have, but it's like the 17-minute version with another singer, and it's all about marijuana, and it's very slow. It's the same song.
Raven you guys never did a version of it with Raven.
No. Once we played with Raven, she I mean, we knew what we had to do when we were picking her up. I mean, because our other singer was, again, trying to sound like a normal person. When I say it's not to put anybody down, but in a nutshell, he was literally a waste of our time. So as soon as we picked up Raven and we, you know, heard what she could do and her lyrics, and, you know, obviously we didn't make the songs about being a stoner band anymore. We were turning into a band that was literally about harnessing witchcraft. We wanted to make the songs the way that they are now, you know.
So, yeah, no, listen, I personally, I think it works. Let's set up the track then, because I am going to play that new version of Dancing on Your Grave. Now, I guess, obviously, is there a footnote element here with this production with the guy who's behind the drum set?
No, he is not. It's not Nathaniel behind the drums. It's the original drummer, but our guy who did the drums completely changed the sound, and he actually added beats in there.
Okay.
So I don't really know exactly what he changed. All I know is that when we got the finished product, it was like, fuck yeah, that's what we want. So, I mean, I know he changed a lot of shit. So it's actually DJ, the guy who records us. His name is Danny Dunford. He's our recording engineer, I guess you'd call it. He's the one that basically changed the drums. If you listen to the old version compared to the new version, there's a lot of changes. So that's why I was like, did you play the drums? That's exactly what I said. Because he plays drums. Yeah. I was like, did you play the drums? I mean, did you redo them? He's like, no, I punched them in on the computer. So thank God for digital recording shit. He just punched those beats in and changed. We recut the guitars and the bass. That's all new stuff, but it's all new drum sounds and new drum beats.
Yeah, no, listen, when you first shared it with me, I heard the subtlety of it. There's a little bit more power in it, and there's a little bit more accent, I think would probably be the word for it, where things really, they punch through more, I think, in correlation with your guitar work, if you dig what I'm saying. Just those little subtleties. You know what I'm talking about, especially, in Dancing on Your Grave. You are very, very specific in your pattern. You know what I mean? That's part of the song. That's part of Ritual Magic. You know what I mean? You guys have incorporated that to create a stable dynamic. You know what I mean?
Yep.
When you choose to vary out of it, it has a point, it has a purpose, but it always circles its way back in, and it closes the loop. And those accents, and again, I think the term I used at the time after you shared it with me, I think you said it sounded deeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I want to shout out a couple of people who have been floating through during our journeys. My brother, Chris Miller, who I've known almost 30 years, finally got his divorce through. He, as William Wallace said, freedom.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah. So he's just like, okay, I can breathe again. And been a long, hard process for him. He had a bit of it actually happened yesterday, and he had a bit of an adventure last night. I haven't heard the details of it, and he probably not.
Best day of his life, wasn't it?
Well, listen, let's be really blunt, and I don't know if he's still listening right now, but he probably doesn't want to tell me because he knows I would come out here and be like, guess what that motherfucker did? You know what I mean? And knowing him, there could be donkeys involved. There could be all kinds of weird shit going down. You know what I mean? So he's going to keep that shit to himself. So I'm just going to fuck with him like this because my imagination is far worse than his fucking truth. Yes. It's like that. Yeah, he and I do this back and forth. We've done this to each other for a number of fucking years. He's an old school guy covered in fucking tattoos. He's a walking fucking billboard. The running joke is, if Chris Miller doesn't have your tattoo on his body, how can you really call yourself a tattoo artist? So he literally goes all over the fucking place and just, he gets tattoos. My buddy, Tony Rodriguez, has done a shit ton of them on him. And it just, the little subtleties, when you have people within your circle for a long period of time and stuff, like you have these little things where, they're almost like inside jokes. You know what I'm talking about? You have these dynamics of interactions and stuff. So, knowing some of the shit that he's gone through, sometimes it's better to fuck around and joke than, to have to dwell on. But he's finally through that shit. So I wanted to make sure, he got his, looks like approximately 78 seconds worth of fame. Not quite 15 minutes. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of people. I see Mary Sharkus is dancing. Sister Oracles, the Osiris Babylon Malice, Monica Monastera, and a bunch of people just kind of dipping in and out. My mother always likes to pop in. She digs it as well, too. She gave me the seal of approval the other day. We were talking about it. She really likes, that I'm bringing not only bands, but, just having these conversations, be it about magic. Yeah, see, you talk about Chris Miller, he fucking he shows up. No, we were just talking about your freedom, man, that, you finally came through the divorce. I haven't heard about whatever happened last night. I was joking that you might be afraid to tell me what the fuck happened last night because you know I talk about that shit. So we were just imagining scenarios. We didn't know if a donkey was involved, you know. Who knows what the fuck goes on. So yeah, so you just show back up, you got the recap. So this again is your latest video release. I guess you guys released it almost a month ago now, right?
Yep.
Cool. So this is a little bit of Bonded by Darkness, Dancing on Your Grave, and then we'll be back.
You were born to go away, not in the dirt. You were lame. I told you not to come for me. 6 feet under, where you're meant to be.
All right. So, yeah, that was Bonded by Darkness, Dancing on Your Grave. We were talking a little bit offline about the dynamics of how our music tends to reflect the things that we go through. And when you go through different elements of things, be they traumas, death, abandonment, betrayal, and stuff like that, it'll throw our fucking energy off. So a lot of this many times is not in our control, as by, what you were sharing with me. And it's just, it's unfortunate, but I, for one, am truly glad that you guys are staying in it. I really dig the music. A lot of people really like the music, and you guys are just going to get better now. Now you're finding that last little piece of the puzzle. You're coming around the corner, and then you're going to build on all that stuff, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Things are definitely looking better for our band, man. And if we ever hit another bump in the road, we'll just get past it again. We ain't quitting. So we got a lot of stuff to look forward to next year.
Yeah, man. The future is just an open book to be written in. So, again, you guys are going to be playing October 20th over there at the Foundry. You ever played there before?
Oh, yeah.
Good place?
Have you ever played there?
I have not played there, so I'm excited because the last time we saw Frail was there, and the lights were great, the sound was great.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, the place has definitely gotten a lot better since last time I played there with my last band, probably like 7-8 years ago. We played there a lot back then, but I think it's under new ownership now. I think her name is Ray Gentry. She's definitely stepped the place up. They have amazing food, amazing staff. Sound guy's good. Got really nice lights now. Yeah, everything's definitely a lot better than what it was. So yeah, this will be first time I played there in probably 6-7 years. So I'm definitely ready to play.
And you're getting to play. You saw Frail there, so you guys are getting to actually go out there and play with Frail. So that's going to be a cool vibe. Because sometimes it's not just the venue, it's the bands that you have around you. Because energy is contagious. So when you get a couple of bands together that are really on the same page and they're bringing these dynamics together, you and I both know it's a blast. You know what I mean? You can't fake your way through that type of shit. There's an energy, there's a real dynamic, call it magic, call it whatever the fuck you want. But I hear it from people all the time. You know what I mean? They're like, they walk away from shows and, they're on fucking fire.
Yeah. They're, that whole vibe with them playing there and all their fans and everything is definitely right up our alley. It's gonna be a good show. Everything should be really, it should pan out pretty well. The place should be packed too, man. Last time we played there, that place was fucking almost sold out.
Nice.
Last time I played there, so it should be.
Anybody going to be shooting anything? We'll catch some live moments maybe coming out of that show.
I hope so. I know there's one guy. I'm trying to remember his name. Every time I see Frail, he's there recording them, and I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I'm trying to remember his name.
Eric?
Yeah, his name is Eric. What's his last name?
Starts with an L?
Yep.
That's all I know.
I've run into him like 4 or 5 times, and every time I see him, he's always down there for the whole doom stoner metal shit. He's always there. Front row, fucking videotaping their whole set, so it should be.
We'll keep an eye out because I know that that they post stuff on Frail's site, so it's usually their stuff, but by default, one way or another, we'll catch something and we'll get it and rebroadcast it at some point after the show. But listen, brother, you guys, Sister Raven, really kick ass. Have a great show. You guys have earned it. Really wish we could be there for this one, but definitely going to get you guys up here for 2024. So that's a conversation we're gonna have real soon. And I want to try and recreate this dynamic. You know what I mean? The only difference, again, would be maybe having a band like Hollowell or a band like Phantom High from over in Toronto, kind of wrap that whole package, if you dig where I'm going, create, that type of event with you guys and Frail, because I think a lot of people up here would really appreciate it. You know what I mean? It would shift some of the dynamic, would say, hey, here's another element of the rock spectrum that, is really cool, and, I do a radio show, I do a podcast, so I'm going to fucking do it. You know what I mean? It's just really now just figuring out the logistical shit. So we'll have that conversation. We'll figure out everybody's schedules, what's got to be done to get everybody up here. But again, you have a great show. Thank you for taking the time. And I will talk to you guys soon. We're going to, I told you I was going to do this, and I kind of have to do this. Before I get David Spinks on, we're going to jump to Frail's Bela Lugosi just for you, brother, because you fucking hated it.
No, I don't hate it. It's all right.
Listen, that's honest. Listen, I think, and I've seen some of the interviews Gwen's done, both written and, on a couple of the other podcasts. She's very much, I think, in tune with the honest dynamic. Not everything always translates, and they've experimented with some things throughout their albums and over the years. You know what I mean? And she'll be the first one to say, this is not a perfect science. You know what I'm saying? You made the same analogy. You're like, you know what? I'm not doing a fucking 17-minute version of this fucking song. So, so maybe, Bela Lugosi needs to stay dead. I don't know. A bunch of people dig it. So, this is my way of saying, hey, for the people over here, who maybe,
I think they fucking did a great job on covering that song. At that time when I heard it the first time, I was like, oh, no, man.
See, I didn't like the original. I'm going to be really honest. You know what I mean? I like her version way better than the fucking original version. But
I like all their covers they do. Every fucking cover they do is good.
Listen, Head Down, by all intents and purposes, I thought really blew it out of the water because they didn't try to imitate Soundgarden. It's obviously the song. But, Sean's guitar and just the way that they framed the little subtle changes, really, I thought they did it justice. You know what I mean? They didn't try and, do the cookie cutter, we're just going to try and mimic fucking Soundgarden. She took it and really did a testament, I think, to Chris Cornell, not only in the way that they arranged it, but, if you look at that video that they did, that, again, her stage presence, the way that you can see just the subtleties of her movement within it and just how they had the rest of the band framed, I think Chris Cornell absolutely would approve. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that's a stretch to say that, you know what I mean? Because I've seen interviews with him. I've seen, stuff from, the other things that he did back in the day and, the progression that he did through Soundgarden. And he was always big about that too. He was another one of those guys that would do collaboration, like to experiment with things outside the box, which is important. You know what I mean? That's what reflects real music. And I mean, unfortunately, you know what I mean? Here's the other side of the coin. When you dance that deep in some of that darkness, that's how we lose people as well too. But again, great testament. And I think, something that, hopefully, got them a little bit more notice, because you know how this goes. That's how it works out here. You got to catch, you got to catch the moment sometimes. Maybe that's going to be the dynamic that's going to shift it. I think they're getting ready to do another album as well too. I think at least
they're going to be playing a new song this Friday.
Right. So, the future is still unwritten, man. There's a lot of good shit coming down the pike.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, man, go take care of that. Well, you know what? Keep that voice for Devil in You. I think that's going to go great. And you guys, again, you have a great show. Thanks again, man.
All right, man. Take it easy. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
All right, bye.
Hey everyone, it's the Old Wolf inviting you to join me Monday, October 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a Halloween special episode of the Music and Magic Show where I'm going to rebroadcast the original Mercury Theater production of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds as directed and narrated by the one and only Orson Welles. Again, only on Rochester Free Radio, WRFZ 106.3 FM LP. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I've always wanted, since the first time I heard it as a kid, to be able to do something like that. So having an FM radio show and being able to just kind of play that old little piece of fucking magic, just like people experienced it back in the day. And, you know, this is something we forget. Back in the day, radio was the only way that people engaged in any of this stuff: music, entertainment, comedy, commercials, all of it. Radio was the format. Before there were TVs, there were fucking radios. So this, to me, again, is just kind of like that old tribute, keeping some of those old dynamics alive. But out here is where I can go fucking absolutely fucking cuckoo sometimes. Brother, listen, I always love having you and Raven on the show. I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? You guys have always been incredibly supportive. And I like your music. So, I mean, you know, humbly, you guys are the one making the fucking magic and sharing it with us. So I'm just, you know, being like trying to do my part. Say, listen, just keep making us music. You know what I'm saying? You got us hooked on the shit now. You got to keep the supply coming. And believe me, I know the struggle because we were talking again offline. You know, I haven't been working on my music to any degree that I really wanted or should. But the trade-off is, you know, I've been working the radio show and been doing this and all these other things that require attention. So sometimes we have to trade off. I want to shout out some folks that have popped in the chat in between. One of the unfortunate dynamics sometimes with this is I don't always see things exactly in real time. So I do apologize. It's not that I'm ignoring anybody, but I don't always see it. So hello to Sister Tamara McDuff. She's out there at the Lorena McKenna show with Shia, Tivy, and Diane. My brother John Porter just popping in to say hi. I've been busy, but yeah, he's dancing. Monica's like, freedom is great. She just regained his freedom, and now she has all the old projects back. Good to hear, sister. Good to see. Really good to hear. My mom's popping around, and I see my sister. Ah, there it is. Diana, the Assassin Queen. She's going to be on before the end of the year. She and I are going to rip some Band-Aids off of some different elements. She's been with me before. She's been part of this older circle now. Not that she's old, but she's been around since the beginning. So she and I always, you know, have this way of just kind of dipping into some of the places that people don't always think to look. So I'm really looking forward to having you back on, sister. The Assassin Queen, yes. Diana, the one and only. How you doing, sister? Yes, you have watched the evolution of Wolf and Shia. This is very true. This is very true. And it is. Everything is an evolution. It's a revolution. It's a adaptation. So I'm going to cut real quick because I got David Spinks. You know what? I'm just going to do it. Hey, brother Dave, we're live. How you doing? Hey, can you hear me?
Barely.
There you go.
Barely hear you, man.
Well, how's that? A little better?
That's a little better.
Yeah. I don't want to jam it too much and overdub you, but there you go. You with us now?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I got David Spinks on the line. So, as promised, the paranormal man himself, we're going to follow up from last night's show. This is the place where all the fucks can hang out, my brother. So as we discussed, you don't have to worry about any fucking language now.
Cool.
So how's it been
That's how
going?
we like it. Talk freely, right?
Well, listen, you and I were getting into some heavy stuff, and especially within what you do, there really sometimes isn't a lot of room to play nice with these things. You dig where I'm going? Sometimes you need language to really define a thing. So if you're dealing with a fucking monster, the fucking part isn't a sexual dynamic. It is a definition of like, no, this is a fucking monster, man. And we've lost the ability to have context to language, if you see where I'm going.
Yeah, unfortunately, in today's society, everything seems to be, become too PC, and politically correct for you, those of you that may not know what that means. So, I think over many generations, we as a society have coddled to certain things that maybe shouldn't. And, sometimes you just gotta, there's an old saying, if it walks like a duck, sounds like a duck, looks like a duck, it's usually a duck. So why can't we call it a duck, So, I'm pretty outspoken on that, and I call it for what it is. If I see this, I'm going to say it, and I'll say it out loud, sometimes to my own detriment, because I don't care. Freedom of speech it means a lot to me. I spent 8.5 years of my life serving this country in the military, and I think I earned that right. So,
well, that's a great point, because it is a dynamic that sometimes we take for granted. Ironically, you made the duck joke in one of my long-running go-to graphics. You won't probably be able to see it now, but if you go back and watch the podcast later, the graphic up is the duck, and it says every single thing that exists in this infinite universe is either a duck or not a duck.
Yes.
So I'm pretty much with you. I use it. I use it all the time, because that is one of the elements that we've lost. We just get caught up into this illusionary fucking dingling. And then, as somebody said out here, the George Carlin approach, you know what I mean? Most of the powers that be, none of them give a fuck about us. They haven't given a fuck about us. No. And a lot of it is it's distractionary. You and I touched upon it, and I think it would be one of the good angles to hit in tonight. Fear. Fear is a powerful tool. It's a powerful weapon. It's a form of energy, and it can create all kinds of ungodly bullshit, depending upon who's wielding it.
Right. Absolutely. And, unfortunately, sometimes some people, when they become too outspoken, they are made examples of, and that's where we need to get away from in this country and around the world, really, because they don't like when you call them out, and when you get too big of a voice, sometimes they shut people down.
Well, I mean, especially in what you deal with the paranormal. So a lot of what is in the scope of it, or at least how we're defining it right now, is you're exposing things that, for all intents and purposes, have been hidden. They've been buried. They've been ignored. And in a lot of ways, they've been misrepresented. You know what I mean? And it's not honest. It's not truthful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we both know that going way back for millennia, the mainstream church has done all kinds of just horrible things and hidden so many things from us. And, and people are starting slowly to uncover some of that stuff. And there's whistleblowers within the church too. Believe you me, there are good people out there that are coming forward in all different genres and aspects of government and everything else, and blowing the whistle on this crap.
Right. Because you're not begrudging the dynamic of faith. You're basically, you're trying to pull the curtain back and say, hey, listen, just like everything, you have people within these circles that manipulate, that warp it, that weaponize it, and do these fucked up things with it. And then that, unfortunately, tends to be what represents certain elements of it. And especially, as you have found, when we talk about things like good and evil, energy, ghosts, things that, again, fall into the dynamic of paranormal.
Absolutely. And it's the same in everything, in government and religion. Ultimate power seems to corrupt certain folks. And, unfortunately, that's how it's been and how it probably always will be. But it takes a lot of good people to stand up to that and, let it be known, hey, this is going on.
But energy is reflective. You found that in many of the places that you have been researching and that you have gone into to investigate, that we also absorb these dynamics of energy. So there's a case to be made that some of this is reflective, again, of that dynamic, using the analogy of radiation or whatever you want, that it can be focused. It can be focused into groups. It can be weaponized. It might be an old Indian burial site, or, it might be Father Flanagan from the Lower East Side. You see where I'm going? It's not,
absolutely.
It's not,
you're 100%
static.
right.
You know what I mean? So there is a correlation with these elements. You made mention when we were talking last night about the framework of attachments. Why don't you tell people what that really translates to in practical terms?
Well, in practical terms, so most human, there's no perfect human out there, hardly. We all have our life experiences, our traumas, and our whatever you want to call it, that enables sometimes these dark energies to attach to us. And, talking about what I deal with, and, they don't call spirits at the bar spirits for no reason. There's a whole purpose intended, there's a whole purpose intended towards that aspect. That's a real thing. I've seen it. We all know people, that have gone out, partied way too hard and done something that would totally out of their character. I know a lot of people, and I've done it myself. I'm not perfect. I woke up in a yard one time many moons ago, and it's like, how in the hell did I get here?
But just also in the same analogy, you had experiences when you went deep initially, and you talked about this, how you brought that energy back with you, and it fucked up your life for a period of time. Yes. I mean, it threw everything into fucking chaos.
Yeah, I was at a notorious haunted location in Pennsylvania, a well-documented place, by many people going back into the 70s and 80s. And I put a team together, we put a team of people together and went and lived in this place 24/7 for a whole entire month. And then a couple of the people didn't make it a week or two. It was so full of negative energy, like they could not handle it. And these are seasoned people that have been investigating for quite some time, and usually things like this would not affect them. But this was so bad, so negative, full of negative energy, that one guy with us, he was a seasoned guy too, and been around for quite some time. He was, grown man crying like a baby. He's saying, guys, I can't deal with this place. It's just too bad. And, they're talking about a grown man crying like a little baby, and he left within a week. All kinds of other bad things happened. And then me and the other main guy, me and him, we went back 3 more times for 2 weeks at a time. And all the people involved with this, mind you, are no longer friends. A lot of bad stuff happened, a lot of bad vibe and energy around everybody created this stuff. And when I got back, I had just the most horrendous stuff start happening to me. When we talked on the show the other night, when I got back, almost immediately, I walked into my house. Within minutes, I heard what sounded like a light bulb pop. I checked every light bulb in the house. All of them worked. And then I started getting this horrendous, just rotting flesh, stinking, feces smell in my house. And within days, like I was almost financially bankrupt. I started going through a really bad divorce and all kinds of stuff. My health was bad. And I was having this dream nightly of this black cloud surrounding me, and these black arms were coming out trying to grab me. And every night they got closer, and I would wake up just covered in sweat. And finally, one night, one of the arms got a hold of my shoulder and tore my shirt in the dream. And I kid you not, when I woke up, I was covered in sweat as usual, and I had a torn shirt and a little scratch on my arm.
Right. And that's when I was like, let's be honest, you're not the kind of fucking guy that is going to scare easy. You also are not the kind of guy that's just going to take something on a single note, especially knowing your background and stuff. You're a very much practical, what's going on in the moment, analyzation type of approach. So you know, in no uncertain terms, no matter how anybody else wants to fucking spin it, you know what the fuck is real and what's not real, at least to the degree of your experience. You see where I'm going? You may not be able to define it, how it happened, where it came from, but you know that it fucking happened.
Yeah. And, for me, I was like, I couldn't figure out why I was having this same dream every night, because I'd never experienced anything this intense and this for this long of duration. And it just dawned on me finally, holy crap, I have an attachment from that place. And I'm the kind of guy that, that will never happen to me, Sure enough, it did. And because I've been in countless places over my 30 plus years of doing this, some very dark places as well. But at the same time, none of us are Superman when it comes to the spiritual side of things. And, it got me and it got me good. And, I wrote, that was my first book I ever wrote was about that place. It's called Wicked 46. You can get it on Amazon, but it's a day by day journal of what I experienced in that place and how it affected me afterward. And it serves as a warning to some, hey, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. And I got it. And I'm trying to help other paranormal investigators, maybe young investigators that are thinking about, doing this stuff and doing it on a full-time basis, that, hey, we are human beings and we're not Superman when it comes to this stuff. This stuff can and will affect you spiritually, mentally, and even physically.
Absolutely.
And take it from a guy who's been doing it for a long time. It will do it. And it's happened to me and many of my friends,
Well, my sister Diana brings up a good point, and you mentioned this, and you and I have talked about this dynamic. You do the basic things that you've learned along the way to protect yourself and, cleanse yourself, as they say. She uses the word. And you made mention of a very similar thing. Your girl has also exposed you into some of the other elements, I guess you could say, of the magic end of it, because we both know that that's just, one of the words that we've stamped on things that we don't understand because it's outside the box or it's a convenient world. But it is something that you have to take seriously. You and I use the analogy, about, swimming in the ocean with the sharks, and that sometimes there's a big fucking shark that's just waiting, to take a nice wet bite out of your ass because you're someplace you're not supposed to be.
Yep, exactly. And that's a great analogy we use because it's the truth in reality. There are some forces that are higher level than others, and they are, the little ones, so to speak, work for those big ones. And you're delving into stuff sometimes that you're in the big dog water now, so to speak. And, it's not pretty when it happens, let me tell you.
No, it never is. Let me ask you something from your experience, and you've been doing this for a while now. How much of it, just in a basic percentage, is the real thing, something that's outside the box? Maybe it was from something in the past or some other element, or pure manifestation of people putting the narrative in. We talked about this, you get enough people show up at the place and they're all focusing on the devil, all of a sudden some fucking horn thing is going to show up. Or you use the analogy of Slender Man, something that just became such a fucking ingrained narrative that it was really kind of born out of the myth. You see where I'm going? Yeah. It wasn't something that was there. It was manifested. It was created by us for all intents and purposes.
Well, if you follow energy work of any sort, you can, when you learn enough and it's basic level, like we are, as humans, we can manifest things. And, if you're constantly sitting, I'll give you an easy example. Like if you are constantly a negative person, the odds are that your life's going to have many negative things going on in it, there's old sayings out there, and those sayings they were created by people with intent and with purpose to help us, because you can be my glass is half empty person, or you can say my glass is half full, and if you live by those simple rules, you'll notice things in your life will change. If the more positive energy you bring into your life, the better it's going to be. Even if you can have the worst day you ever had in your life, but if you take a positive outlook and learn from that and say, okay, I screwed that up, you know, I'm going to do this better next time, you'll notice changes in your life almost immediately. And let me tell you, I'm one of those people, and I had to learn that. And the metaphysical side of energy work has really taught me that. And I'm telling you, it has changed my life 100% for the good.
And you've seen some shit in your day, and you've seen some of the worst shit that people can see. And for somebody like you,
I'm any better or any worse.
No. My point more so is for you to say it like that. For me, like, I read people, so I can hear it in the way you talk. I can hear it in the tone. You know what I mean? That's the type of thing, you know what I mean, that you have to really take stock in, because most people, again, take it for granted. You've touched it, you know, you've tasted it, you've been scratched by it. You see where I'm going? You've danced with it. So you get it for what it is. Another point that kind of came up in the chat, and I think this is a good point. Christine says she had a situation with an entity and tried to choke her in her sleep. She came flying out of a mirror, and she believes that this stuff is definitely, you know, wild. But it also goes to the dynamic, and I would say to my sister Christine, many times we're the ones giving birth to this stuff, this type of energy and stuff like that. We tend to trigger these responses. Now, I'm not saying that people do it on purpose or it's their fault, but you understand, like I do, Dave, that a lot of this stuff is given birth to us. We're the food source. We're the energy source.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So many times these situations play out because we give it life.
Yes. And that, it's not in every case, but it does make it worse, so to speak. Like just with energy and intent, you know, we as humans can change our lives. And speaking to what we were talking about, those situations like Slender Man, we call that a tulpa, you know, and that's a manifestation that we created. As it's the collective consciousness. So many people were constant when that story first broke out. It was created by Creepypasta many years ago and everything. And people really thought that was real. And all these people were like fascinated with it. They were concentrating on it. And thousands of people, it's like the hive concept, the collective consciousness. That many people concentrate on a negative type of entity or negative force, it's going to manifest at some point, somewhere, somehow. And it's the same thing for all the faith-based people as well. The power of prayer is very powerful, and it does work. I've seen that work. I've seen many people healed from it, people on their deathbeds, and I've seen prayer chains created and literally bring them back from the dead. You know, I have seen it with my own eyes over and over again on both sides of the fence, on the positive side and the negative side, you know.
But it's reflective of that manifestation because you've seen it at many different ends of the spectrum. It's not universal to one particular religion or philosophy type of dynamic. And something that Christine also just said, and you also had mentioned this to me, sometimes it isn't even just the dynamic of what we're trying to put into it. We, by our existence, we carry energy. So you take somebody, and I'll use the shining analogy. If you take somebody that shines, that tends to attract other shit. So many times we'll just find ourselves in a situation because, you know, let's be really honest, you know, and you made a good point to this. These things, many times, they don't have a way to cross over. So we open those doors. You know, if you're talking about a spirit, maybe who hasn't talked to somebody, you know, in 30, 40 years, and they find somebody that actually can hear them, they're going to want to have a lot of fucking conversations about it. That's why I don't dance with that end of it. I leave that to Shia because I don't like that energy. I'm not good with that energy. I know where my strengths are, so I deal with other things that I can translate better. And some of that for you made a good point of it. You've been exploring other doors based on the new information that you've been gathering along the way.
Well, you know, for me personally, we all have our own situation going on when it comes to that, what we are comfortable dealing with and what we are feeling energy wise. And, the longer I've done this over the years, like I literally can walk into a place and feel that energy, and a lot of people can. I'm not the only one. I can feel, okay, if it's happy energy, sad energy, mad energy even. And, when you do, it's almost like training, the longer you do this kind of stuff, the more you are open to it and can feel things and do different things. But we all have abilities. Some are highly more adaptive. Like, the more you tap into them, the more you're going to be able to use them. And over the years, I've had so many people say, man, you get such good evidence during your investigations. And I've been doing this for 15 years and I don't get hardly squat. Well, I think that certain people draw spirits to them. I don't know why or anything like that. Spirits do feel comfortable with me, when I'm in a place, it seems like on most occasions, and the dark energies do not like me, and then sometimes they show their ass and they want to act out. And I've been scratched. I've had some crazy stuff happen to me over the years. I actually had my arm broken. There's 2 witnesses out there that saw that happen. And I can't prove without a shadow of a doubt, 100% it was paranormal, but the way it went down, there's no other explanation for it. So there's so many things.
It goes to the narrative.
When you're trying to help, if you're trying to help spirits, or even people that are dealing with dark haunting type situations, the dark doesn't like that, and they're going to lash out at you, because their job is to create that negative energy and that fear base that we've been talking about on here, because guess what? That feeds them.
Oh, and it's also a great tool to control people. If you want to keep people from dipping into the areas where you don't want them to see, you got to create a fear factor. But also some of it, I think, too, becomes a reflection of, again, even just a couple hundred years ago, the dynamics that we talk about in everyday aspects, technology and science, and frameworks of energy and how energy is defined, was completely outside the spectrum. That was witchcraft. That was fucking heresy. You made, an interesting, thing about how it wasn't just witches they were burning. They were burning philosophers and scientists and poets and painters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that, especially if you look at something like the Spanish Inquisition. It wasn't just the religious framework. It was everything that conflicted and or challenged the narrative of how certain things were. And we know now, we've found a lot of different dynamics now of energy. We're getting into things like quantum physics, where we're completely outside the scope, even dimensionally, you know what I mean, in that framework. So knowing that just in this short period of time, we've unlocked these things, common sense says that there's got to be a whole fucking spectrum of shit out there that we haven't even gotten close to. How could we get close to? It's like trying to dance in a black hole. They're just, we don't have that ability yet.
Right. They don't want to. Okay. Knowledge, knowledge is power, right? So the government and the powers that be, whether it's religious powers, governing bodies, or governmental governing bodies, they don't want the people having more knowledge than they do. Because what does that create? When someone becomes more powerful than a government or a religious organization, they can't have that, because that undermines everything for them. It's all about money, power, and greed, right? So when someone's knowledge base becomes more than them, they can't allow that. And there's been so many people persecuted and even killed over the years, because of things they've created. Look at all these inventors. There was a famous guy who back in the 70s created a carburetor that got over 70 miles a gallon. He disappeared. No one's ever heard from him since.
Well, I mean,
there's so
we
many
know this historically, right?
That have come up dead in mysterious accidents and everything else. Because, it's all about big pharma and everything else. And that's real. I mean, that is real, people. I mean, they can't allow that to occur, so.
Well, but the trend that's different now is information. But people are waking up. Exactly. You hit it. Now they can't bury it as easily. They can't hide it the same way. It's getting out more and more. it's spreading organically. It's spreading in different elements, not only in what you do, but we also talked about the correlation with music. It's happening within literature. It's happening within dynamics of art, and it's obviously happening within dynamics of science because we're continuing to unlock these new levels of things. We're creating new tools to allow us to go beyond our limited human senses, because that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about getting outside of our standardized framework of how we experience things, sight, smell, hear, touch, and now we're getting into deeper shit.
We are, if you subscribe to energy, right? And as human beings, if you believe that we are energy, i.e. the soul, we all have a soul that's made of pure energy. Recently, Harvard has been conducting many experiments. They have documented something leaving the body, a burst of energy at the moment of death, and actually documented the human body weighing less. And they've got it down to almost a certain amount of weight. And that's fascinating to me because that's legitimately proving, hey, this body we're in is just some sort of shell, that we occupy for a certain amount of time, and then we go off. And we're pure energy. Energy never dies, and it just transforms. So I'm a big subscriber to that. I believe in that 100%. And whether we go to heaven or hell or any of that, who knows? We'll find out when the time comes, I guess.
But these are just translations. This is what somebody wrote down someplace in some time. But the common theme throughout all cultures, throughout all time, is this narrative of things outside the box. So you'll see reoccurring themes. You'll see reoccurring baseline philosophies that tend to push one direction. You know what I mean? And that direction tends to be more things like commonality, love, tolerance, compassion. You see where I'm going? These nicer ends of the spectrum, but always underneath it are the competing dynamics, the greed. Like you said, you and I are both on the same page. I believe the whole system has been turned into a fucking monopoly game. You know what I mean? Where, human people are really just, they're translated into fucking numbers. I always love it when you get the deeper conspiracy guys are like, oh, they're gonna hide, fucking shit in your fucking vaccine. You know what? Listen, if you don't want to get the vaccine, that's fine, but don't kid yourself. We're being watched through our phones, the computers we're doing now, everything we do, our fucking driver's licenses, our bank accounts, our social security cards. It's like nobody has to create some fucking sideways, nefarious way to keep an eye on us. The technology's been out there fucking anyway, but we tend to focus on some of the stupid shit. You know what I mean? Versus, hey, let's take a look over here where, maybe something is actually really fucking going on. And especially with what you do, you're really exposing the dynamic that the old narratives aren't true. They're just not. You can't balance that with some of the things that you have personally experienced. You just can't.
No. And, but, doing this for as long as I have now, it's really, I've become way more awake and noticed things that, that have been being done to us, as far as covering things up and hiding information and everything else. You have those aha moments, we all do in life, where that light bulb comes on our head and says, oh my God, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie, and the writing's right there in front of your face in black and white. And so many people just choose to ignore it that it's just mind boggling to me,
Well, I mean, it's not a comfortable dynamic because a lot of this shit, and let's really be honest about it, is kind of scary. It isn't things that really kind of fit in that comfortable model, especially when you're talking with some of the deeper, darker stuff. And you dance with a lot of the darker stuff. You tend to actually, from the way you've explained it to me, you tend to look for it. You don't want to deal with the, you know what I mean, the apples fall at the wrong time of the tree are haunting you. You want to go to the place that, that the deep shit is going on because that's part of your nature too, I think.
Yeah. Well, I want to help people, and it seems that has just been my narrative for most of my journey in the paranormal. You know, I've gotten so many calls over the years. Hey, I'm waking, you know, for example, just a generalized example of a case I may work. Somebody will email me or message me on social media and say, hey, we're waking up and we have bruises and scratches all over us. There's stuff flying across the room, whatever. And then it leads me into this case. And then, next thing I know, I'm dealing with something very negative, and we're bringing in clergy to get rid of it and everything else. And it just gets really off the wall sometimes, and it seems I've found myself in these situations way more than I ever wanted to. Whatever the reason, I don't know, but I feel that it's my calling and my duty to help folks, and I always have, and I always will. Whether it was when I was in law enforcement, I was in the military, I've always been in that mindset. Even in grade school and elementary school, I was a crossing guard. So that's just my life's journey or my path, listen, I guess.
Some people are called to it. It is what it is, whatever words you want to put on it. It just, these things tend to reflect in some people where other people go on to become belly dancers. You know what I mean? And we like belly dancers, so we're not going to begrudge that. Not everybody can do what you do. One of the things also, too, and I've heard this narrative repeat again and again, and you made a really good point of it, a lot of this, and regardless of what angle you're approaching from, does require a bit of a historical dive, because there are elements of things that are reflective not only within lore and culture, but obviously within the dynamics of, okay, what has happened here? Who was here? Where are the threads to tie in certain dynamics of things? And not everything follows the same narrative. So you made the analogy within, Christianity and the faith-based things, but you've encountered things that don't give a shit about, Christianity or any of those frameworks. They exist outside of that narrative. Maybe they are the very things that we kind of decided to put labels of demons or devils. You made that analogy as well too, and those are just the words and the images that somebody came up with, and so they stuck, but they are not reflective. You can still protect yourself within the dynamic of your faith, but it's not something, it's not like TV, like you said. It's not going to be The Exorcist where you're going to walk up and be like, the power of Christ compels you.
Right.
It's not going to work that way.
Right. It doesn't always work. And that's the thing. There's ancient energies here that have been here way longer than any of the religious based things that we know about, as most of us do. There's things that come in and out of doorways that who knows where they're from. They've already proved. We talked about interdimensional things that's been proven in recent times. They've proven there's many more dimensions than ours. So, and sometimes there's these weird little doorways that open for whatever reason, and many different things come in and out. So, we don't have all the answers. Nobody does, but we learn from doing and experiencing. So, it's just like I said last on the other show with you, we're often left with many, many more questions and answers in this pseudoscience that we're involved with and everything. But that's how we learn as humans,
But there's also there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of inspiration, and I'll throw this out to Christine. She made a statement. She believes hell is here, not crossing over to the heaven's gate. Being stuck here on earth is hell. And and I would go to your earlier analogy about the glass half full, because in any dynamic of the word hell, and I think you will agree with me, there wouldn't be this. We wouldn't have the opportunity to love each other, support each other, teach each other, experience any of the good aspects. That wouldn't exist within the framework. So just using the basic analogy, I would say, no, this isn't hell. Maybe it feels like that, and I'm really sorry, but I would rather say, guess what? No, honey, you're not in hell, because you're hanging out with people that actually give a shit. So how could this be hell? There are moments that will feel like hell. People will bring dynamics of evil to the table. And you know this from your service, that many times good people are victims. You know what I mean? They didn't
Right.
choose for this to happen. It wasn't because of anything they did. Shit happens sometimes, and there's a collateral damage element
Yes.
that comes into play, which is, part of what you're trying to also kind of, get into, because you've described a couple of dynamics with, the places that you've investigated that they feed off of people. You know what I mean? That's their
Yeah.
food source and shit. So
Yep.
there's a narrative that says that these things exist at a different level. They don't eat Cheerios like we do. They eat fucking energy, just like plants
Yeah.
will
Yes.
eat energy, sunlight.
Yep. And as a human being, we have to, even in our darkest times, doesn't matter what's going on, if you hang on to hope and positive energy, that's what beats it all. In my personal opinion, in my view, if you stay positive, even at the worst times in your life, and just really bulldoze through, you say, you know what, I'm not going to take this. I'm going to beat this, and I'm not letting this happen. And you got to do the work. You have to do the work. You can't sit there. Jen has great analogies. I told you that last time. She's like, if someone constantly sits in their own shit, guess what they're going to get? Shit, more
Right,
shit.
right.
So,
But it is that narrative, because again, that a lot of the things that are out there, they want people, and some of this is man-made and some of this is the shit that's outside the box, but they want people to exist in that anxiety, in that fear, in that loathing, in that darkness, because they're less inclined then to go against the grain. It's a great control model. So you keep people framed in this constant state of unhappiness, of loneliness, of disconnect. And that narrative feeds, it will become the manifestation for darker things around us.
Yes. There's so many people out there that, there's people out there that are purely negative. I worked in federal prisons and state prisons and stuff. And that's like, I'm here to tell you, that's probably, for an empathic person like me, that's like the most.
Oh, dude, that's got to be, it's fucking insane. I can't imagine doing it. Yeah. No way.
Oh. Yeah, it's like the darkest, most dreadful, negative environment you can ever be in. Because just imagine you have 3,000 guys in there, or girls, depending what type of prison you're in, that are, their freedom has been taken from them because they did whatever they did. They are stuck to live in a 6x8 cell for however much time. They are told when to eat, sleep, and drink, and they can do this and when they can do that. And many of them are like, there's some of them are way worse than others, of course, because you have murderers and rapists.
Well, let's be blunt. It's also a brutal environment.
Some people, and most of it's drug based. A lot of it's drug based crimes because they needed to support that habit, so they robbed people or wrote bad checks or whatever they did. Well, some of those people, you can see them, and I've been in there. I've lived it, seen it. There's no human soul in there. It's just a shell, and it's the most dire, dreadful environment you could ever be in.
Yeah.
And I'm just using that as an example of what people do. But I've seen people come out of there and they literally change their lives because they're like, oh my God, I will never live like that again. But other ones go right back to it because they don't want to do the work to change themselves or fix themselves or whatever, and they go right back into it. They're institutionalized. They are repeat offenders over and over again, and they eventually die, and many die very young, very early deaths.
Well, I mean, and it's tragic because a lot of this is just reinforced generationally. These are conditioned elements. These are not things that people, I think, are necessarily, you jump out of the womb and all of a sudden, you're fucking babyface Finster. You know what I mean? So there is a dynamic that says, environmental things will shift it. But the core narrative, and some of this goes to the element of, honesty. If you don't have honesty in the aspect, then you have nowhere to go. And that core honesty has to be with oneself. You have to be like, okay, this is where I have to take responsibility. This is where I have to do this and that. we can't always
It's
blame the
same
powers
shit.
that be, or, you know, or the hidden shadows. And don't get me wrong, you'll be the first one to say that, yeah, you know, sometimes shitty energy and these experiences will fuck up everything around us. Like, I'm sure you didn't choose and woke up one morning and say, you know what, I want to fuck up my whole life.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? So, but you came out the other end, though, brother. See, that's the glass half full. You didn't just let it fucking define you. You didn't let it drown you, and you're like, no, I'm going to find another way. And now you've taken that and you built upon it to expand not only the narrative, but also to some degrees to expand your journey and your part in it.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's so enlightening and so powerful when you are able to see, okay, that, you know, that did that to me, but I'm fixing that right now because I'm not going down that path, you know. And you know, so many people have those cracks that are able to be manipulated by dark energy, dark forces, whatever terminology you want to use, and they get that, you know, something gives them that little push, and next thing you know, they're you know, they commit suicide, or they go rob a bank, or, you know, they go on a murder spree or murder suicide situation. And I've seen it happen in the paranormal field to people I knew that were good, really good, salty the earth people. And they, you know, they just were overtaken by something and just whammo. You next thing you know, their whole thing is upside down and they're dead now.
Well, also, too, it's reflective of the human condition because some people do weaponize it. You see it all the time in cases of like domestic abuse. You will see one part of the relationship being the aggressor, the controller, and using these dynamics to pretty much manipulate and force their will on somebody who, you know, it's the dom sub thing. I don't want to make fucking light of it, but you get where I'm going. And it tends to be a targeted type of thing. You know, you hear people talk about all the time, oh, you know, you have a type and stuff like that. But it is also just that very simple predatory element that, you know, certain people are easier to manipulate because maybe they're carrying trauma, maybe they've been damaged, maybe they're insecure, and predators will smell that weakness and exploit it. And that is another form of it.
That's a real thing, brother. That is a real thing. Like, I'll give you, you know, we touched on this, me and you privately, but take a family that, I call it, there's a drinking culture out there, right? And many families have it. You know, where it's almost like,
brother, I come from a long line of alcoholics. You can cut right to the fucking chase on this, man.
Yeah, it's almost like a generational curse, though.
It
if
is.
you really think about it. And it's passed down. You know, our kids learn, they learn what they see, they do what they see, you know. And if they see their dad who pounds alcohol every night, 12-pack or whatever, gets slammed and smacks their mom around, they think that's normal. You know, and that's passed down through lineages and generations, and then they grow up to be the same way.
Well, listen, it's reinforced in dynamics of religion. You know, we're going to have the honest conversation about it. There's always been this narrative, you know, woman was born of the rib of Adam, and, you know, within how the church has always been, you know, structured. I saw something a friend of mine, Gia, posted, and she was dead on about this. You know, you don't see women as popes. You don't see women you know, figures within these things, because that has been one of the narratives that culturally women have been subservient. They've been on the lower end of the scale, and it's been a male dominated dynamic, you know what I mean, since you know, recorded time. But we know now, and we've seen the damage that it has done generationally, that we've created these elements now that are out of balance. And, you know, I know this as a parent, being a single father raising a boy, you know, I was blessed by the fact that I had my mother's influence to frame that, but I saw it in all the other kids around my son, especially when my son went into Air Force ROTC. And then I really started to see it. And again, you know, my kid got lucky. The guy that he had teaching that was an old school sergeant who had served in Vietnam and stuff, and he was actually a child of that movement, you know what I mean, where he believed in the simple dynamic. You judge people off of what they do. You treat women with respect, you know what I mean? You don't begrudge another person's faith or the color of their skin. He was one of those guys that actually walked the fucking walk. So, you know, I got lucky, but you're dead on that a lot of this is just passed on, you know, not unlike we share a cold, you know, in a movie theater. It gets passed on like it's no big fucking thing.
Right. And, you know, the whole women being less than man thing is just, you know, that started way back, you know, like you said. But you know, and I think a lot of that has to do with the church and the church teachings. You know, they didn't want women being as powerful as men. And there's so many conspiracies out there with the Catholic Church, so to speak, that, you know, they think Mary Magdalene was, you know, the conspiracy theorists say that Mary Magdalene was something totally different than has been told to us by the church, and that, you know, they did that on purpose to make women subservient. Women are very powerful beings, man. I mean, they give life, you know.
Well, I mean, just look at the historical record of Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was elevated by the church at the time because she was winning battles. So she became a convenient narrative when it suited the purpose. But when they lost that one major battle, and they realized that they were going to have to now to come to terms, they just served her up and basically painted her as a fucking heretic.
Killed her.
We see it in the old lore. You look at the Salem witch trials. You look at many, even, you know, going back to King Harold when Christianity was introduced and the beginning of the erasure of the pagan elements within, you know, Norway and Sweden, you know, the Icelandic countries and stuff. Women were brutalized because they represented the dynamic of where that lore was. They were the teachers. They were the storytellers. They were the healers. You see where I'm going? So that had to be erased. And a lot of them were demonized. So that way it would reinforce the element. Don't go back here. Look over here. Follow this. And again, it's not to say that, hey, that a person's faith isn't what it is, but let's be honest, you know, a lot of it is co-opted. You look at Christianity in the dynamic, and you know this from Egyptian lore, you know, is it really a coincidence that Egyptian lore has the same dynamics, you know, Son of God, you know, crucified, came back 3 days, the apostles, and then all of a sudden it just reappears generationally within the framework of, you know, Moses. And, you know, I mean, it's just like, no, every culture takes from the culture before it, repackages it, puts their stamp on it, and calls it my God. And my God is better than your God.
Exactly. And let's face it, man, more people have been killed in the name of religion than all the wars combined. And most wars are caused because of religious beliefs.
Yeah, you're not fucking wrong on that for sure. Listen, we're looking down the barrel of it again. The shit has started up once again. You know what I mean? And you know, without taking any time, because I don't want to dance on the political thing, because you and I both know that's the low-hanging fruit. That's always the easy narrative to get around the baseline morality. Nobody should be fucking killing anybody. This is fucking stupid. You have to condemn it across the board. But, you know, when you have people playing tit for tat, well, you know, you killed 100 people. Well, I killed 1,000 people, you know, and, you know, they're doing shit like, you know, hey, let's do a photo op with a dead kid. You know what I mean? Which I think is absolutely unconscionable. You know what I mean? And I don't give a shit what side of the fucking spectrum you are. When we're at the point that we're weaponizing dead children to prove a political point, you know, we have to really say what the fuck is going on.
I see why they do it, but it's still not acceptable, because
it's not
at all. This is what they did. You know, they're showing people, hey, this is what they invaded our country, and this is what they're doing. I understand that aspect, but they're weaponizing it. And, you know, it's all about intent with me. Good and evil is all about intent. If you intentionally set out and you go kill a bunch of kids and people all because of your religious beliefs, you're wrong. In my book, 100%, you are wrong. And, you know, if you get retaliated upon, that's because it was your own doing, you know, And regardless of what you say or do, if you go and intentionally do that to people who are just minding their own business, doing their thing, and you invade because of your religious beliefs and kill a bunch of people, you're wrong in my book, you know.
But again,
And
that's been the long-going narrative out in that area of the world. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
The Crusades never ended.
No,
They just really didn't. They took a new form, just like a lot of the things. You know, my mother made a context. You know, for her coming through. You know, the period of the '60s. She was like, we thought we had gotten past some of this stuff, but obviously we didn't. It was just kind of taking new forms. Now, that's not to say, and you and I both know that it gets weaponized. Just because somebody believes in the Second Amendment and really just doesn't want to get behind, you know, things like more government intervention, doesn't make them a fucking Nazi. But in the same element, just because somebody believes a woman has the right to choose, doesn't make them a fucking communist. You know what I mean?
exactly. Right. Yeah.
So we got extremes at both ends that are just driving the narrative.
It's so tough and it's very complex. But in reality, it's very simple if you think about it. You can break it down into the most simplistic terms. If you go kill someone just because you don't believe the same way they do, you know, you're wrong.
Right. It doesn't matter if you're Palestinian or Jew or Christian or Catholic or you're a fucking Scientologist or you're part of the Manson family or fucking David Koresh or fucking Jim Jones or any one of these fucking asshole characters that have popped up time and time again throughout history that basically just manipulate people for some other fucking side agenda.
Yep. And that's, you know, you can break it down very simplistically like that. And instead of racking your brain trying to figure out, okay, are they the right side or the bad side, you know?
Well, I mean, but that's how it gets, you know, within a civilization, within social structures and stuff. There has to be a bad guy. You see where I'm going? Because that's
who created, so you can go way back and say, okay, who created all the different languages and religions? I mean, what for and why? And that is the cause of most of the strife on this planet.
Diana has a great one, but if you believe in Joe Pesci, forget about it. See, maybe that's the solution. We just the kingdom of Joe Pesci. We cut through the bullshit and say, guess what? Everybody else, we're going to go under one flag, and it's going to be the Joe Pesci flag.
Right.
You know what I mean? Listen, sometimes comedy is the only thing that you have to take a shitty thing, and don't get me wrong, but context is everything.
About a greater narrative, you know, a greater narrative of darkness or evil or whatever word you want to use was to keep the people divided and always at war with each other.
But it also makes sense, and if you do the correlation, if there are things that obviously feed on negative energy, that feed on elements of death and pain and sorrow and stuff like that, then it would stand to reason that they're probably, you know what I mean, influencing or at least putting into play, because humans will reflect this. So, you know what I mean? If your steak and potatoes is a lot of bloodshed and shit, there's a correlation, you know what I mean? Then, you know, maybe things are really being influenced. Because like you said, you see it in humans. I've seen it in humans. Like I try and hold the line that I want to believe, I want to have the hope, but I've experienced people like you that in no uncertain terms, like, you know what, this motherfucker is wrong. This person is not good. They reflect their actions, reflect darkness. It reflects manipulation, you know what I mean? And it's hard to balance that against this, you know, let's love everybody type of thing. Like I want to, but I know what happens. You know what happens. It would be like the same analogy, you know what I mean? And you know this, you know, especially from, you know, like a combat context. You don't have the luxury.
There's a real difference between those people and everyday people, and you can see it in them.
Yeah.
They are totally influenced by evil or darkness or whatever word you want to use, and they set out to hurt people intentionally.
Yeah, my mother says, and those in power keep and increasing it by pitting men against each other. There it is.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
that has been a universal narrative. It's historical. Every civilization, every culture that we have found any documentation, that is a common reoccurring theme.
Yeah. And, what I love is, we were talking about music last show a little bit and how powerful it is and how it brings people together. How many times have you been at a big show and, even you've played it, in big shows, I'm sure, over the years. And, it doesn't matter in that particular hour or 2 hours or 4 hours of music being played, that it doesn't matter what people's belief system is. It doesn't matter what side of the fence they fall on. Everybody is there in that moment together, and they're all just togetherness, and you see their cell phones go on, or in the old days, it was the lighters. Everybody's got their lighters on.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
All in that groove and that energy together. And it's very powerful. It's very powerful.
But we also know the reverse is true. You get a bunch of people together, you get them all pissed up, want out about, and you've got your mob mentality. You got the pitches, you got the fucking torches, pitchforks, hey, let's go fucking rampage. So, there are real examples, practical examples that you can see in everyday life that says, you know what, these energies are real. So if we can create good vibes, if we can create these positive elements, why wouldn't we? You know what I mean? Unless there's something else that says that you know what I mean? Like it's the yin and yang. So there's obviously that counterbalance because we know the negative is there. So if one is, kind of vying for, like the old Indian analogy, they're trying to jockey into position and going to bang you into the fucking wall along the way. Well, here comes the collateral damage. Everybody else in that line is got a good chance of getting wiped out in the fucking process.
Right. And, people, as a whole are sheep. And some other peoples have leader characteristics, right? So some of those leaders that have those characteristics are bad, and they go up and because they're not doing it for the people, they're doing it for their own selfish purposes to gain from that. And they gain all these followers, and then lo and behold, you have a whole mob created by a bad leader. And, it's so hard to get around on all of it. And if you spend all your time thinking about this kind of stuff, you'll go mad, really.
Yes, it is the mouth of madness, for sure.
I just try to, personally, I break it down and trying to be a good person myself. And hopefully that will spread into to other people, and they will emulate that. And I think
that's the old analogy, leading by example. That's leading by example, man. That's the action part. You know what I mean? The words don't mean shit without the action. So when you're actually doing it, and especially doing it over time, because I've done a little bit of the weekend, warrior type of thing, and I've danced in different things, but there's a case to be made that when you do it over a period of time, you not only do you learn certain dynamics, but you establish a continuity with it. Diana has a question for you, and I think it's actually a really good one. What about paranormal activity that could be caused? Still there? Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, it cut out for a second.
Yeah, welcome to technology. Diana has a question for you. She says, what about paranormal activity that could be caused by seances or self-inflicted or even brought upon by curses? How often can a paranormal specialist, quote unquote, calm the entity in your experience?
How often can we calm an entity?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, each scenario is different because each scenario could bring something different into that particular situation, right? So you don't know until you're in it. I mean, that's really a many-sided answer to that question.
Well, so, maybe the better question is, have you encountered scenarios where you couldn't do anything about it?
Yes.
Okay. That's honest. I appreciate that.
And what I would do in that case would be to try to bring in, I would say, well, this is above my pay grade, so to speak. So I'm going to try to bring in someone else to help this situation. Someone maybe that specializes in what I think's going on, or that, it could be a Native American situation. So what would I do as a responsible person?
Right. You're not going to bring a priest in.
Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, you have to constantly be on your toes thinking and say, okay, this is above what I can do here. So let me try to bring in someone else to help this situation.
I think the other part that she was also asking, and I kind of brought this up well too, how much of it do you see, that is really self-inflicted because people, open a door that they shouldn't have, or they're fucking around with things that they don't understand? Would you say it's a balanced 50-50 thing? Is it 10% of the time, or do you see it happen more often than not?
Well, it all, like I said, each situation is different, but we do, we may have a generational curse on this family, so to speak. So it's up to those people to take control of that situation and heal themselves and cut those generational ties, right? And it does happen, I think, a lot. I would say probably even more so 60 or 70%, the people can fix it themselves with a little bit of help, right? So they have to take their power back, and they have to dominate that situation and say, you know what, this is our house. We're not going to allow this anymore. We're taking away your power.
That's a great point. It goes back to the manifestation intent analogy.
So, and that can be handled in many different ways depending on what the situation is, but there are those times, man, when it's something that's really something much bigger and something darker, or something that we have to bring in the big guns, and do what we do, and sometimes even further by bringing in someone that specializes in that particular situation.
Now, you also made a point, and you mentioned it, and we talked a little bit about it, that since now there's become more of a, I guess you could say, a desire for stuff that's centered around paranormal, the quote unquote dynamic, that there's been an upward trend also in the bullshit end of it, for whatever reasons, be it for, people trying to exploit monetary dynamics, or people just, let's really be honest, just wanting attention, or again, that internal manifestation. There has to be a demon in my house. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like, no, you're fucked up, and the demon is actually your reflection that's following you around your fucking house kind of scenario.
Like I said too, like some people, we are very powerful beings, and some people can cause things to fly across the rooms just when they get pissed off. And they don't know that they're actually doing it, And
but there has been also an upward trend in just bullshit to try and exploit the dynamics. That there's actually a market for this stuff now.
There's a huge market for it now. It's become pop culture. And let's say going back 15, 18 years ago, before a lot of the paranormal TV stuff was going on, right? So when the paranormal reality TV stuff started happening, it really brought this to a whole new level. And everybody and their brother all of a sudden came out of the woodwork. I'm a psychic, or I'm this, I'm that, because they saw that as a potential for them to be able to get on TV. All right. And there are a lot of charlatans out there, and also on the other side, the investigative side of that, people, they're like weekend warrior type, they watch a TV show and they think that's how you do it, so I've actually had some people tell me, well, I watch Zach Bagans, and that's how I do it. So I'm right 100%, in my way is the only way. That's just not how it works, And unfortunately, a lot of these people that are on TV, they have no body of work to back up what they're saying, and they are really, just actors portraying what they've seen on TV. Okay, they haven't written any books, they haven't contributed to the field, or have no cases. They just all of a sudden they're on TV. you know, and I'm this and I'm that, and there's nothing. Like, you can look up their stuff. They did nothing in the field before they were ever on TV, and being on TV is not the real boots on the ground doing this stuff. It is actors portraying what I do and many others have done for many, many years in reality. Okay.
Well, because it's a drawn out, painstaking type of process. And let's also be honest, and you made a very specific point about when you were researching the place that you bought, you have to eliminate a lot of the technological variables to really be able to remove and debunk the obvious things. You used the example, you ripped out the electric in the place because you didn't want it to be a false positive, because we both know electricity is just another fucking form of energy. So, electricity will, work in different ways. So, some of this also too is the very nature of how you have to investigate these things. You can't go in there and analyze it under a microscope using the quote unquote standard scientific, approach. We have new tools. We have things that can register different variables of energy. You also use the analogy that we can catch different frequencies now within the audio spectrum, which again is where a lot of this sometimes will translate. It's just, kind of the same, context of how a dog can hear different pitches than a human can. You know what I'm saying? So, some of this we already know as baseline science. We just haven't gotten it far enough down the road to get into the other stuff. But we know with quantum physics that there are layers upon layers upon layers of things just outside of our standard perspective.
Yeah, like, we use the color spectrum, the noise spectrum. There's many different things that we're trying to utilize in the paranormal field to, get us one step closer to answering some of these questions. And it's fascinating stuff. Even sound, a lot of really good EVPs are caught in the frequency below normal human hearing ranges, and then we're able to play them back on audio devices that we can hear them on and raise the volume, and then boom, we can hear it with the human ear.
Right, and you can separate background dynamics. You can run it through, because as an audio engineer and a musician, I use a lot of those tools in restoring old stuff, you know what I mean, to pull like the pops and the cracks, or to isolate a particular dynamic. I've also I've been a big fan. I've done a little bit of kind of amateur stuff within some of the SETI communities, and just analyzing some of that space noise, as it's referred to, because I have some of the software and the ability to run it through those filters and things like that to see, is there something underneath at one of these oddball frequencies or wavelengths that's just outside of our fucking scope? You know what I mean? So we have, just again, in the last 20 years, we've come up with all these new tools. So who knows what we're going to know in, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years down the line. We may be, our kids are going to be having the conversation about, when our fucking parents were young, they didn't believe in ghosts, you know what I mean? And then we actually have physical dynamic proof, and we know they're running around all over the fucking place.
Oh yeah. But most of our old timers, they believed in it. That's why they refused to talk about it, because it scared them to death,
Yeah.
So they're like, we don't talk about that stuff. And the old school folks would say, no, that brings the dark or the devil closer to us if we entertain that or talk about it. And my grandfather was like that. He refused to talk about that kind of stuff. And he was a Baptist minister for 40 plus years after World War II, because his life was changed. He was in the second wave in Normandy, and he was a medic. So you can imagine what the man went through and saw. The first wave was almost entirely obliterated by the Germans.
Oh yeah.
So he came in the second wave, and he was
a fucking bloodbath. Yeah.
It was a bloodbath. And, when they say the ground was literally red with blood and the water, they weren't lying.
Listen, my brother Ed Contini, who does a show on WRFZ, he was an Army medic, and he went on. He was an EMT for many, many years, and he shared very, very similar dynamics because of the type of shit that he's seen and he's encountered through that type of stuff, but he's also an incredibly natural, empathic type of person. He's, one of those
And
people. You know the type that I'm talking about. They're the guys that will run into a burning building to save a child. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just,
Right, and
it's an eternal dynamic. Right.
For that.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of the empathic people are in those type of jobs. They're firemen, they're EMTs, they're they're medics, they're police officers, they're whatever. Those people seem to, almost all of them have some sort of empathic abilities. Now, me and Jen have talked about that in depth, for several years now, and so much in fact that she's doing a book on it called CPR for the Soul, and it's going to have accounts from all those type of people, paranormal / actual incidents that they were working, that they experienced during a crisis situation, a drowning, a fire, a call, because we want to show folks some of that, because we, doing what we've done, we were both in police and law enforcement and everything else, and knowing all the people we know, you can imagine the amount of stories and accounts we've gathered over the years of doing that job. And
it's stuff, let's be honest, that's completely outside the box. You and I both know it. You've seen it firsthand. You've seen things that there's no way to put it into any practical explanation other than something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those energies they can hurt people, but they can heal people. You know what I mean? They can change elements. You used an analogy also too, and before we lose too much time, I thought this was a really good one. You were talking about like the monoliths, like Stonehenge and the pyramids and stuff, about dynamics of being able to manipulate sound waves and stuff like that to move these large, monumental pieces of stone and stuff like that, because there really was no other technological explanation for a lot of this stuff. And we've kind of danced around it, but we do know that sound waves can be manipulated to do all types of things, the same way that gravitational energy can be manipulated. So, there's a case to be made that some of this stuff may have been lost in the dynamic in the crusade to wipe out conversations, the actual knowledge of magic. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was actually technology that we had that just we lost because somebody found it a fucking threat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because empathy is that. You made a great point, and a lot of the people within the circles of my podcast and stuff like that, we're all, again, subscribers to the energy dynamic, be it through, witchcraft or magic or, any number of fucking, labels that you put on it. But the core of it is like that manifestation, that reflection, the intent, and then that element of empathy that some people, they can see it, they can read it, they can translate it, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And they can manipulate these energies, sometimes for bad, but also for good, to help people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there's been some fascinating experiments done by various spiritual people over the years. Even with water, water is programmable, man. And they've shown it. I mean, literally shown it. There's a famous doctor, and I apologize, but I can't remember his name. He's Asian, of Asian descent, but they showed things with water and plants, like they played different types of music, like and different types of negative sounds or versus positive sounds and different things. And it actually, like, the water, dirty, filthy water became clean, and clean water became dark and nasty. Look, it's really amazing stuff, and you can look it up. They've done things with vibration and sound where it actually makes geometric designs with sand and things on its own, like totally just by changing the vibration or the frequency of sound. And it's fascinating stuff. And it can be used for negative or positive energy.
Well, same thing with some of this new, within the dynamics, people use the term like the binaural sound wave types of elements, or, mm-hmm. I've done some work in isolating some of the frequencies, and I've done a couple tracks that were more chakra generated, that were within a dynamic, an element, tuning, if you will, to help to make it easier, because you and I both know the individual. So there's always a little bit of variance. You know what I mean? It's never this, locked in stone type of dynamic, but there are commonalities. Fear is fear. You know what I mean? So you can at least put it within a small range of a spectrum between here and here. But the variance, you know what I mean, becomes, that fine tuning dynamic. But it's there. Like you said, we know it's there. We've seen these elements. This is the framework, you know what I mean? Again, if you look at just like what we're doing, we're using technology to create a digital signal that's basically you and I communicating. It's translating us in the moment. We're having this at two different places in the world, literally in real time. You see where I'm going? So that transference of energy just in that simple dynamic is just like, hey, guess what? You use it every day on your cell phone. You know what I mean? So it's real. You know what I mean? There's no tangible dynamic. You know what I mean? It isn't like, when the sun comes up, oh, it's bright, it burns me. There it is. You know what I mean? A lot easier to buy into. But these other things are outside the box. You can't taste them.
We've done experiments over the years too, and it's been done on TV by others as well, where you had two teams of people in different areas of the country doing paranormal experiments with EVP work and different things. And, it was happening simultaneously in both places because those two groups of people were connected. And that, that frequency, that energy was connected in two different places in the country, and they were experiencing the same type of activity. So that shows you how powerful energy is and intent and everything else when you have the collective consciousness working on different things at the same time in different places. And it does. It can literally work around the world.
Well, I would use the same analogy. Humans, just from a pure biological schematic, are not that different than satellites. So you got all these satellites up in the sky bouncing things back and forth and creating this nice little chain of communication. We are actually, we're satellites, we're batteries, you know what I mean? Our energy, we can fucking, you walked into a situation and all your energy is drained out. You've had physical equipment drained out. You know what I mean?
Many times.
Right.
And then when that happens, you have a 6-hour camera battery fully charged and you're filming stuff, doing your thing. And you see the energy meter, the charge meter on your camera battery just drain physically in front of your eyes. And then shortly thereafter that, you have a flurry of activity happen.
Yeah. So you can't ignore certain base realities of things, but also too, here's the thing, there are consequences. And I think probably the best way to close this out, because we're both making it sound like, hey, let's everybody go out and go run to the Amityville house, and that we want to put the disclaimer out there. No, you definitely don't want to dance in these waters. At least, I'll use the analogy again of scuba diving. You always want a spotter. Okay. You have to have somebody that knows what the fuck they are doing, okay? Because if you're wrong, okay, and it's not about arrogance, it's not about ego. It's the simple narrative that if you are wrong, do you really want to be caught out there by yourself, unprepared? You know what I mean? Because you've seen it happen. You told the story about a friend of yours, who got fucked up, lost part of his foot. You know what I mean? There are real consequences. You went through a whole bunch of chaos. You also described a story where your girl almost got killed. You know what I mean? Yep. So, I know you well enough to say, that this is not shit that you're just pulling out of your ass, because there's a whole lot of other stuff you could pull out of there that would have a much more tangible dynamic. It's the element when you can read how people tell a story. Like, I'm sure you use that as part of your bullshit meter. There's certain elements in the way humans communicate that you can read the intent. There's a form to it. There's an energy that goes around it.
Right. And I was a victim of it of myself because I was running and gunning, going to all these dark locations.
But brother, I heard real fear in your voice, and that was the only one of the only points that framed out, because by nature, you're not a fearful guy. You've lived your whole life confronting things that most people would shit their pants in, let alone go back to it on a day-to-day basis and do it for as long as you have. So when that fear dynamic came in, that I knew was like, yeah, brother man ain't bullshitting on this. That this is something that touched you in a way, because I also know how important she is to you. So that was part of the reflection, because you care so much. That's really what the underlying fear was. Like, you know, you almost lost her to this element. You see where I'm going? That's real shit. That's not like the book shit or the TV shit. That's, you know, deep down ugly reality shit.
Yep. And there's other people that like I said earlier, you know, I know people that were good people that delved so much into it. They were doing it in their home constantly on a daily basis. And next thing you know, murder, suicide, you know, with a couple that was married, you know, and the guy who did the murder suicide, he was the one that was worried just months before that about her doing it all the time at their house and everything else. So, you know, constantly doing EVP sessions, trying to communicate with demonic spirits and everything else and negative energy. And next thing you know, it went really bad. And this stuff is real. People are affected. Their lives are changed and sometimes ended when they're delving too much into this stuff and just not being careful and, you know, protecting themselves, so to speak, and thinking it's, you know, well, it'll never happen to me. Well, guess what? It does happen to people. It happened to me. It happened to friends of mine. It happened to someone very close to me. And we're just trying to help people and spirits, you know, as well.
Well, so we have an alternative, because
not to be trifled with.
Right. You've been there and you've documented a lot of stuff. So I would say the safer and better thing would be, hey, read some of your stuff. You know what I mean? Check out what you've already done. You've created a map in some ways for people to give them at least some understanding, but also too, because we got a plug for Gemma as well too. You could come out to Saratoga Springs October 28th and meet Dave in person, and he'll tell you about this shit in person, and you can read him in the moment, because, you know, again, you're very open. That's one of the things I really appreciate when you and I first started talking, is you didn't hold back. You were just right to the point. You're like, hey, this is who I am. Da 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 da. And you know, that's the type of thing, you can't bullshit your way through that. You know, some people, you know what I mean, they'll talk a good talk, but you got a lot of stuff behind it. You know what I mean? And it's there. You put it out there for people to explore and learn from.
Yeah, and that's what I want. That's what I'm trying to show people. Hey, you know, this isn't to be trifled with. It's not like you see on TV at all. It's much deeper and there's much more to it. And I'm not claiming to have all the answers, because I don't. Nobody does. And, you know, it's just, you know, it's not like TV on some of these shows. You're not going to find a demon every week, and you shouldn't be seeking out those things anyway.
No, some of this should be situational, right? And it's Dante's Inferno. You know, if you peer into the abyss long enough, you know it's going to peer back. Diana wants to know, do you train others? I have a sense that, you know, she might know somebody that wants to learn. Do you actually do that? Do you actually train and work with other people to kind of pass this stuff on?
I used to do that a lot, but I'm so busy, I don't have the time. Now I do help, you know, when I had my store, we would do some classes and stuff. And I in the past, I've done basic paranormal stuff, you know, the 101 type of stuff. And I always recommend to people that think they want to do this to get with a group that's been around for quite some time, that has a good rep. You know, hey, if that's what you want to do, there's always teams looking to add people to them, and they need help, you know, and learn from them, learn from people that have been doing it a while. And, you know, and have an open mind, because there's no said right way or wrong way to do this stuff. There's only the right way.
It's a new frontier. It's new stuff. Let's be honest. It's just being really exposed a little bit for what it is. We've known it's there to certain degrees. We've talked about it. It's, documented in, art and literature and things, everything from, Jacob Marley's ghost to, a poltergeist to, heaven and hell and everything else in between. Right. So you can find it in so many different ways. But some of it is also, again, by its very nature, outside of our scope. It doesn't want to be seen. I mean, let's be really blunt. You know what I mean? You're a fucking predator. You don't want to, you don't want other predators finding out where you're hanging. You know what I mean?
And you see on these shows and all this stuff, people are messing with Ouija boards and doing conjuring spells. Don't do that. Don't do that, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're asking for a whole world of hurt to come down upon yourself. You're messing with things you don't understand, and you should not be delving into that stuff. Doing an EVP session or using a ghost box or something to that effect, that's one thing. But when you're actively trying to conjure things and you don't even know what you're doing, you are really asking for some trouble, my friends. Don't mess with that stuff.
Well, there it goes back to that manifestation, that intent. You create an image, not unlike, we take a photo and then you hit send.
Right.
I mean, or it's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We create the fucking monster. We create the monster, and then we wonder why it's rampaging around us.
Right. And it's not saying that something's going to happen every single time. You just don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and what's going to come through. That's the thing with it.
Well, sometimes it's subtle. It'll come out in our behavioral patterns. It'll come out in things like our self-esteem or our moods. You know what I mean? Yep. There's so many different ways it'll affect our health. Every day now our stomach hurts. We can't eat right. You know what I mean? There's just so many fucking analogies where these things will shift the dynamic. It isn't always like Linda Blair's Exorcist where, heads are spinning and, all this other crazy stuff. Sometimes it's subtle, like a tick will hide in your hair and just sit there and fucking feed. You know what I mean? Yeah, the tick doesn't give a shit about your sexuality or your beliefs or morality. It's a tick. It's looking for a food source, and when it finds one, it's going to latch on, and it's going to stay there. It has no reason to fucking leave.
Yeah. And, some people are fascinated with the dark stuff because they want to see something. They want to believe it's real. But when they get it, then they're like, oh, shit, what did I do here?
See, I dance in the dark stuff to teach people. See, I believe that's one of the biggest problems that we have, at least within a societal thing, is we do not confront the darkness. If you don't understand the darkness, you're at its fucking mercy. You understand this from a military perspective. This is not about, again, going out and playing Batman, but it is about the simple element of learning the things that you can to protect yourself and the people around you. And it's also about understanding how we reflect darkness. Sometimes we're the fucking monster. You know what I mean? So that's that line of accountability. We have to say, okay, you know what? I have to deal with this dynamic. I have to change it. It isn't something else. It isn't this. It isn't that. It's me. Maybe it's a reflection of something. You mentioned like the generational curses. Okay, yeah, I saw these things. Now I got to own it. You can only use that initially to be like, okay, I didn't understand it. But once you understand it, you're now responsible for it. Like, you can't keep on being like, hey, my dad was an alcoholic. That's why I beat every woman up that I see for 30 years. Right. It's just like, well, how long have you known that? Well, 29 years. Well, for 29 years, then you've been a fucking asshole scumbag. You know what I mean? You got to own that shit.
Yeah, and you have to own it and overcome it.
Beautiful. Listen, brother.
That's why I closed the Willows Weep House to the public, and people cannot understand that. As a responsible person that owns a dark location, I knew in my heart I was supposed to own that place for a reason. And when it hit me like a ton of bricks, I was like, oh man, I'm exposing people to this darkness. I have to shut this down. So I closed it.
Listen, I would love to have a whole podcast dedicated to this. If you're cool with it, I would love for you to go through the history and really kind of take the time to go through it, because I think it is a good, valuable lesson. And I think that, let's also be honest, at least to some degree for the historical record, to say, hey, you know what I mean? And I know you've said it elsewhere and stuff like that, but I'm a firm believer that these things need to be reinforced. We need to get the message out. We need to get at least some semblance of a chance for people to say, you know what, you don't have to go down these fucking shitty roads. Some of us have already been there. Here's a map that you can use and avoid it. Again, it's not rocket science. It is basic empathy.
Believe the hell I've taken over that.
Listen, you've made mention to it, and it makes sense, because you're denying people. You're denying people the ability, not just access, let's be honest, human condition variable. You're denying them the ability to monetize it and to profitize off it. You're denying people the ability to be a part of the experience. A lot of people just want to be a part of something. They want to be on the bandwagon. They want to say, I was there. You know what I mean? I touched it. I smelt it. So there's a couple different emotional aspects that come into play. And all of them, again, very easily have nothing to do with your rationale. But this is the narrative. Everybody's going to have their perspective. They're going to have what it means to them, and then that obviously gets reflected back at you and the bullshit that you fought for. But listen, I got to be honest with you. I think in many ways that is more reflective of character than any dynamics of talking about it. If you see where I'm going, you actually did something tangible. You shut the fucking place down. You know what I mean? You didn't talk about it. You didn't pontificate upon it. You were just like, you know what? You saw enough, and, somebody that you care about, basically pointed it out. And, listen, that's accountability. Somebody said to you, say, hey, listen, maybe this is not what you want. And you were also very honest. You didn't want the karmic bound, you didn't want that baggage. You didn't want to be that guy.
Uh-oh.
What was that?
They cut out. I thought.
That's the universe saying that we're going to have to talk about that house on its own. It wants its own show. You and I both know it wants its own fucking show.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we'll do that justice, not out of a fear dynamic, because I know you have a plan, and that also might be part of the dynamic, that it knows that eventually you're going to fucking come out there and you're going to fucking kill it. You know what I'm saying? So this is the classic dance, between like Dracula and Van Helsing.
We'll see, huh?
Listen. My instincts tell me that you're not going to leave it to chance. When you're going to cross that particular bridge, that's really open, and that's obviously a personal dynamic. But everything that you've described and everything I've gotten to know about you says, I'll use this simple analogy: you're not going to walk away from an active minefield. You're not going to leave it there for somebody else to come and, blow themselves and God knows whatever else up in the fucking process. You wouldn't be able to live with it. You're just not sure how to handle it right now.
Right. And it's all part of the learning experience too, because, I've never owned a haunted location before, and I thought that was
You're not done. This is a practical dynamic. You're not still quite exactly sure what you're dealing with to the degree of how it should be handled.
Right.
So until you reach that particular crossroad, the best thing you can do is, you control it. So now at least you can make sure that it's contained in the moment. But on the other side, guess what? That means that people aren't going to fucking have access to it. But, it would be like the same analogy, you're going to send somebody, into an active radiation site. You'd be like, well, you want to go sightseeing on a Superfund site. You know what I mean? So you all can get fucking sick and shit happens and you turn around and try and sue me. Because that would be the other practical dynamic. I don't care what somebody signs off on.
Story, there's other people that were screwed up spiritually and mentally too from going in there. And after my buddy got the whole foot thing that he's still dealing with to this day, I just said that's enough. It's enough. Enough's enough.
Well, listen, your own personal experience with what you shared, and again, we'll get to this next time. We're going to leave this as like the cookie crumbs for people to come back, and we'll dance this one again when you got some time after the convention stuff. But it's a great story. Again, you're going to be at the Rockin' Oddities Con October 28th. You can come check it out. You can also find him online. You got some books. You got some bunch of different shows. A bunch of different people to check out the stuff that you've done over the years. So, David,
I'll be there.
It's all under Dave Spinks, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I've been doing events every weekend, so I hope I'll have some books there. I've sold out of almost all my books I had on hand. But
listen, I'll just be glad to have more of a conversation with you. I'm not gonna lie, man. So
man.
I'm definitely digging on that. My buddy Doug is coming up there with his art band. He does these really cool old school kind of rock type of things, but in that really bright color, type of shit, like the old Eddie, but Iron Maiden type of style, type of stuff. So you got a lot of these exaggerated characters. Stuff. Real cool guy. It's going to be a lot of cool people up there. It's going to be a great weekend. My brother, thank you again. I will see you the 28th. And again, we'll have you back out here and have you tell that story in its entirety.
Yeah, we'll do, man. And I think it'll blow people's minds that haven't heard about it before, because it's a pretty insane thing.
It is definitely something that, you know what I mean, is not a simple story per se.
No.
Because you've done a lot of research. You've written a book. You know what I mean? So, I mean, no offense.
Ongoing story, too. So,
well, right. You're working on the second book. You know what I mean? But also the same analogy. There's a lot of stuff there. It's not something we can have in a 15, 20-minute conversation even. That's a much deeper thing. But I would be honored. I would love to do it. And we will definitely set it up. We'll talk about it the 28th, you know what I mean, depending upon how crazy it is up there. Listen, you may get a whole lot of people, and you know how these things sometimes can go. People tend to pick up on a particular vibe and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, the conversation's happening, and the next thing you know, 10 years have gone by, and you're like, how the fuck did I end up here?
Exactly.
Listen, you have a great night, brother, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too, man. My pleasure being on. Thanks for having me.
Take care. So yeah, that was David Spinks. Really cool guy, paranormal investigator, author, all around warrior. Let me tell you, it's not easy dancing in some of these things. And part of the reason why, not just for the Rockin' Oddities Con, because there's a lot of different things going on in the Rockin' Oddities Con, but there is a correlation. I've talked about this, and a lot of people within these circles understand the dynamic of energy. We call it witchcraft, we call it magic, we call it science, we call it all these different words, but it is all part of the same thing. Dave talked about it in a very simple dynamic. Again, manifestation, intent. We tend to create elements of things, and obviously the energies around us. And again, it's not always our fault. Simple dynamic. If you're around people with shitty energy, with bad energy that are doing bad things, that's going to rub off on you, just like radiation. You know what I mean? And, this is the type of stuff that I believe we have to keep talking about. You can use elements that tie in, obviously, with other things. And also, too, we need to have people like Dave and others who have more of a voice, who have more of exposure. He's out there doing what he's doing. So we're trying to bring these things together. Thank you, Monica. Yes, he is a cool dude. He's got a lot of really great stories. I'm looking forward to having him back out here again. But again, as always, thank you for taking the time. Next week, I'm going to have the witch herself, Shia. It's been a while since she and I have done one of these. She's going to be at the Rockin' Oddities Con. She's going to be doing mediumships and, her witchy stuff. Diane and Nativia, a.k.a. Lillian, known as Emporium. They're going to be out there with their magical stuff. So the three fates, as I'm calling them now, are going to be weaving their magic. And I'm going to be running around hanging out with guys like Dave and Pete Palace from Hanukkah and You know me, I'm the fucking wolf. I'm going to be dealing with the music stuff with it. I'll make periodic appearances, but there's going to be a whole lot of fucking witches and shit and stuff like that. So my natural instinct as a wolf, I'm going to stay in the shadows. But in all seriousness, it's going to be a great time. Okay. Final shout out before I wrap it up. Okay. My brother Doug, D-Mac, and the Art for Sickos, the Rolling Art Store, he's going to be at the Rockin' Oddities Con. He and I had a conversation today, and his band, Mick and Mac, they performed October 7th over at the House of Guitars with us and stuff. Really great guys. I saw them perform a couple times with Days End, originally at Slosh Fest last year. So we started talking and hitting off, again, same, type of musical influences, background, you know how this goes. You catch people with a similar vibe. You're like, all right, this is a cool dude. This is somebody I can relate to. So you have those conversations. So we're talking today, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be at this Rockin' Oddities Con, Halloween. I don't like fucking Jem. All right, Jem, if you're listening, communication, sister. Okay. This is a guy from my end of the woods here. He's a great guy. I'm glad you got him. I wish I had known I would have been able to, get a little bit more going for him beforehand. But listen, this is how we build it. This is how we kind of set the stage for these types of things. The Rockin' Oddity Con is going to be off the fucking hook, and we're going to have it in Rochester, New York next year. So we're building on bigger and better things. Old Wolf Music, the radio show, Shia, the Witches, and a lot of you folks. You know what I mean? Jonathan came out last year to the Arts for Autism Festival. Unfortunately, Diana, no, you couldn't get a card reading tonight because this is a podcast. This is not one of Shia's card things. I do appreciate you coming out here, but unfortunately, no, this is not that show. I'm the wolf, okay? I'm the other shadowy character in the witch's life. So, but if you want to come back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay, you can let Shia know that, hey, I was on the Wolf's podcast and he doesn't do reading, so could you? And Shia will absolutely, and she's standing right here. Actually, here she is right now. Okay, just so you know I'm telling the truth.
Hello, my pretties.
So do you come back here? You don't get off that easy.
I don't get off that easy?
No.
Okay, hi.
Do you know that name there with all the
Diana
pumpkin?
Hool, yes. Hello, sweetheart.
Okay, so she gets a card reading tomorrow because she came on the podcast. And,
She gets a card reading tomorrow, Diana.
okay.
Come on over and ask your question. I'll give you a question for a card reading.
Okay. See how that works?
Yeah.
Now again, in fairness, because again, I didn't want you to feel, like, okay, well, you fucked up, but it's honest, you know what I mean? But this is a different type of thing. Okay. So Tuesday nights are different.
Although if you really want a card reading from the wolf, I'm sure that you can probably harass him.
Okay, that's the end of the show, everybody. Good night. I'm gone. Bye-bye. See? Yep.
Yeah, no,
That's what I get. See, I try and be a cool wolf. I let her come on. I actually let her have a voice for a minute. She tries to co-opt my show. She's trying to pimp me the fuck out. See, this is my life. This is why I need to go and hang with Dee in the van and get the fuck out of here.
And that looks like a cool van.
It is. We saw it the 7th. You had it out there at the event.
Oh, that's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same fucking van. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, yeah, that was the one I was stroking the furry wall.
No.
It had a furry wall on the van. On the inside of the van, they opened up the back of the van to show all the t-shirts, and there was a furry wall.
So go smoke a Jeffrey. You'll feel better. Listen, thank you, everybody, for joining us. It was a really cool show. We went a little bit longer, but I've been kind of expanding the radio show and this show to be able to bring more people on. Thanks again to Josh and Raven, Bonded by Darkness. They're going to, again, be performing Friday, October 20th, okay, down there in Lakewood, Ohio, at the Foundry with Frail. Okay, going to be a really cool show. You got the Rockin' Oddities Con coming up October 28th, 29th, Saratoga Springs. You can go to rockodditiescon.com. You can find it online, Facebook, social media. It's all over the place. It's going to be a fucking blast. So, yeah, next week, going to have the witch. We're going to talk about her magic, the shit that she does, how she terrorizes me and kind of, makes me write deep, dark songs about trauma and demons and shit. Like, that's all her fault. Then we're gonna play one of the tracks that we did last year that she sung on. So for those of you who've never heard Shia sing, we're gonna play that track next week. So until next time, try and love each other. Know that you are loved. Okay. As Dave said, the glass is half full. Okay. And we'll do our best to keep filling it for you. Have a good one.